Good morning. It's 9:01. If everybody could take their seats, please.
This has Ruthie written all over it.
Good morning.
Shira?
Brought you some, brought an extra book.
Oh, thank you.
Bad guys in jail.
Well, they got me sitting next to just the fan in here. I'm not wearing a skirt.
Good morning. Good morning. So at this time, we're going to do, I'd like to do a moment of silence for Mississippi and Nashville, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, please stand with me and participate. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for today and thank you for all our blessings. Thank you for having us be born in the greatest place in the world, the United States of America. Pray for wisdom today and that we can move forward together and that we can accomplish the goals to have our citizens have a better quality of life. Ask that we put our egos aside and that we address the hard issues and have the tough conversations today. And that we walk out of here, we walk out as friends and colleagues and respect. Thank you for all that you've done, and please forgive us our sins as we forgive those who have sinned against us. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we're going to do our little introductions, and I would start here over in this corner and thank all of you that have come and our staff and managers and take some good notes today and get some things accomplished. But so, Mr. Brown, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ken Brown. I'm on the council in the city of Crystal River.
Cindy Guy, Council of Crystal River.
Robert Holmes, been on city council for a couple of decades.
Joe Faraday, Citrus County School Board.
Sandy County, Citrus County School Board, and I've been sent a message from our chairman, vice chairman, and another member. They all had out-of-town conflicts, and that's why Tom Kennedy, Ginger Bryan, and Doug Dodd are not here. But they send their regrets to all of us.
Mike Prendergast, Citrus County Sheriff.
Jeff Kennard, County Commission.
Rebecca Bates, Citrus County Commissioner, District 4.
Ruthie Schlabach, District 2, Citrus County Commission.
Holly Davis, Commissioner, District 5.
Did she just say District 2?
No.
I did say 2.
Did you?
I'm Commissioner District 2 and 3, evidently. So no, 3, excuse me.
Diana Finnegan, I'm actually the District 2 County Commissioner.
This one's some coffee.
Would the real District 2 count?
Good catch.
I'm Bob Plaistad, Mayor of Inverness.
Pat McBride, Inverness City Council.
Linda Bega, Inverness City Council.
Crystal Azanich, Inverness City Council.
Thank you. I think I spent too much time fighting for money for the river, and I think I'm from District 2 now, but we all represent everybody, right? So thank you. And Commissioner Finnegan's doing a fine job with District 2, so I don't need that job. Anyway, okay, so At this time, I just kind of wanted to put some, I only have the agenda, but some ideas. Veronica, you had something for me, I thought? Yesterday you were gonna get me something, but I guess I'll just wing it. Let's see. Sorry, I haven't even had coffee or tea this morning. Veronica, where's my packet that we had yesterday? Okay. Okay. So at this time, I just kind of wanted to go through. We had a video, I believe. Did we not have a video, Veronica? And we'll go ahead and start with that, and then we'll go through what our different goals are, interests, what is a concern for each. At this one, I asked the sheriff and to please attend, because there have been a lot of issues and public safety that touches on every area of every part of our county, and I think it's important that we bring him here, and he lets us know what, I can't see him, but lets us know what he's got on the agenda for this coming year, and what are some points where each city and the county can help him with, and how we get there, and how we find the money. And I think at this point, public safety is probably everyone's number one concern. So, but we do have a video. I think staff was supposed to be running this part of it. Thank you. I brought up my opening statement that I thought we really needed to touch upon is public safety, which touches upon tourism, both cities, the county. And I don't know who would like to start, but I would like to introduce our county administrator, Mr. Steve Howard. There you are. Steve, could you just tell this new board and this new group a little bit about yourself and some of your key staff members?
Well, the good news, I'm off the witness protection program. I told that to the sheriff already. That's good news. But I think I've talked to you a little bit. My background was city government, county government. I even told the sheriff I worked 5 years with Sheriff Grady Judd in Florida, a Florida native. And about for the last 15 years, I served in coastal Georgia with that community, and was proud to make some accomplishments there, but moving organizations forward. What motivated me about Citrus County was really the people. You know, as I was here a couple months in advance of this opportunity, this job, it motivated me and inspired me to think that collectively we can move this county forward together. And that's really the message today, as you see up there, forward together, because you can't do this alone. The cities do an amazing job. We're trying to work through that. I'm actually working with all the city managers. Collectively, we serve the same citizens, like the chair just said that. We do that. But you are at a pivotal moment, I think, in Citrus County. Growth is coming. You're not going to be able to stop that. But what could it look like? You're going to hear me talk about that, about strategic planning. And Commissioner has done an amazing job, Davis, leading that charge collectively with the board. But where are we going to end up at? You're going to end up somewhere. So when you get in your vehicle to go on vacation or you go to an event, if you don't know the address, you got to put it in your GPS and tell your car where to take you. It's not smart enough to take you there yet. That's what you're trying to do here today. You're trying to tell this county and your cities, where do you want Citrus County to go? So you have that opportunity. You've been discovered. You have lots of assets, and you need to dream bigger. I say that. If you think you're good, you can become great. If you think this community is great, you could become greater. But you have to do this together collectively. And the sheriff here today, without public safety and those resources, there is no quality of life. You know, you've just seen the tragedy in Tennessee and other places. So all of these things are very important components of moving an organization forward. I always tell, I'm like Motel 6, the light's always on. I'm available, relationship building, things like that, and leadership that listens. But we can't do this alone. Just like you've seen that, it's us, it's we to do this. Nobody's that good by themselves. And if they say they are, question them. But we got to do this together. And I think Citrus County's best days lie ahead. There's nothing that can't be accomplished in this community if you strategically focus and are persistent and get this stuff done. You got to become the county of execution, not the county of delay. So thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm glad to be here. We're all in. My family's here. I have a 4-year-old. I've talked to you about that a little bit. So we're excited about being a part of this community and making a difference, but making a difference together. And I'm confident that Citrus County's best days lie ahead. Together we'll do amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to have Mr. Howard on board and his vision for where we can go. Just a little housekeeping. This leadership summit, I do appreciate each and every one of you coming today and taking the time to be here. I think it's important. This was started 8 years ago or so, and it is important for us once a year to get together and make sure that we all know what's happening and what are your concerns. To the audience, this is a public meeting, but there will be no open to the public during this meeting. Comments are welcome at the next scheduled BOCC meeting, which is Tuesday, April 11th. So if you're like me, you better write it down or you might forget. So now I would like to do is just go around the room. We did our introductions. I don't know who would like to start and just talk about, state your position. What is a number one goal for either your cities or the board? And I've been really focusing on goals this year and trying to keep a scorecard on my own self of what each day, each week, trying to get closer to my goals. And so I am curious what both cities' goals are for this coming year, and the school board and the sheriff's office. So I don't know who would like to start, but Ken, you would like to start?
Why not?
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to start off by saying that I have been on city council for just over 11 years now. And in my own perspective, and I feel that the council would agree with me, is that we have a great relationship with the county, and we have a great relationship with our sister to the west, Inverness. So anything that I say is meant in the finest of spirits. And I don't have, normally, when I was in business, I always used to tell my salespeople and my people, don't come up with issues unless you have possible solutions. And honestly, I'm going to come up with some issues that I don't have solutions to. So I'm going to be looking at y'all for possible strategies to deal with what I feel is a huge concern in Crystal River. And that is that we have been discovered. We've been discovered by the county, by the state, by the federal government, by the nation, and by the world. And I'm taking this from a perspective from the residents, not so much from the businesses within Crystal River, because the businesses in Crystal River are really happy. Some of the residents are saying, well, how much is too much? And what can we do to get some assistance from other folks other than the taxpayers within Crystal River to pay for our success, i.e. tourism. The TDC, any organization that's involved in promoting tourism within the county, they're doing a wonderful job. And anybody that visits Crystal River will see the number of tour boats out there, the number of folks in our restaurants and our shops and all. And that's great. That's fantastic. That's how we keep the economy moving. That's how we keep our taxes lower, right? But there's a lot of cost involved in this. And all this cost is weighed on the citizens that live in Crystal River, right? I know they're county residents. They pay county taxes, but they also pay a city tax. Our parks are overwhelmed. If any of you have been to Hunter Springs Park recently, you can see how overwhelmed that park is, both from the number of folks visiting it and the upkeep and the expense of keeping that park in its condition is really, really expensive. The city is looking at options to pay for that success, i.e. maybe charging admission. And that means that we're going to have paid attendants that will follow and make sure people do pay, right? The upkeep, renourishment, and replenishment of the bathrooms and everything. And I'm not going to bore y'all. You all know what I'm talking about. Well, that costs money, right? And extra security and safety. We in addition to the security and safety we receive from the Sheriff's Department, we pay an additional amount to have somebody on the water and to make sure that good behavior exists, right? And to make sure that the bad behavior is identified. Roads, safety, our parks. I think you all get the message, right? I can go on and on and on, but I guess what I'm looking for is, i.e. the TDC. The TDC spends a lot of their pennies towards the promotion of tourism. And in the past, the chairman of the TDC felt that was for filling of beds, right? The TDC money is to fill beds. Well, to fill beds, you have to have reasons for folks to visit those areas and stay in those beds. So I would love for the county to look at the TDC. I don't know if it means changing the bylaws or the mission statements of the TDC and other areas to help the city with infrastructure improvements, to pay for the growth and the tourists that are coming to Crystal River. We get great assistance from the county. We love the money that you've given us for some of our projects. We've gotten great assistance through grants of the state and in federal government, which is wonderful. And I don't want to do anything to diminish how important that is to the city. But I guess what I'm asking for is how else can the county, because we are county folks here, how else can the county help the city of Crystal River help us deal with the success that's kind of focused to Crystal River? And I'll use an example of how many people go visit Clark County? Not a lot of folks. People go to Las Vegas. Well, it's kind of the same thing. And I'm not saying Inverness is wonderful. Your trails, your parks, your lakes, wonderful. But we seem to get a lot of the tourists directed towards Crystal River. And what can we do to help us, just as well as to help the city of Inverness deal with the influx of tourism and people moving into the communities? And I'll stop right there.
Commissioner Kennard?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the few things that I've just jotted down here quickly, but I do want to address something that Ken just brought up, and Commissioner Bays stole a bit of my thunder yesterday in our county commission meeting, in that I would like to see the TDC, and this is something that Naturally, we would handle from the county commission position, but it takes a partnership with the cities as well. I would like to see us diversifying our marketing. Why people are coming here? People are coming here for the bicycling. People are coming here naturally to swim with manatees, to scallop, to fish, but then also use more of those dollars that were allowed by statute to improve existing facilities that are here. Commissioner Bays brought up yesterday, improving the ball fields that we have here. You know, so that we would be an attractive venue for tournaments and such. That's tourism related. Possibly there's a way to find out how to help the different parks in the cities to attract more tourists. Maybe there's dollars that we can use there. That bed tax money is money that our tourists are leaving here behind willingly, and the better facilities that we have and diversity of facilities that we have, not only are we likely going to attract more visitors, but we're going to attract visitors who stay here longer and spend more money. Ideally, that's what we want. I know the sheriff isn't necessarily looking for more people coming to town. That's going to happen. They expect that. Oh yeah, I forgot. Our sheriff and sheriff's office are doing a phenomenal job. So I got it right here, right? No, public safety is not a concern. No, but the people that we've got coming here, we've got a lot of folks naturally coming to town, but we're looking for them to stay longer. You know, we're looking for the midweek type stuff where they're staying here, they're spending more money, they're doing things other than just jumping in the water. Or, you know, if they're coming to cycle along our trails on the east side of the county, we want them to experience Homosassa, Chaz, Crystal River, and so forth. But anyway, I just wanted to make a couple comments based on what you brought up and what I heard yesterday from Commissioner Bays as well.
Commissioner Bays.
Great points. At the end of the day, this always comes down to revenue. It doesn't matter which way we look at it, how we look at it. It's going to take revenue, and it's going to take a heavy lift to start to rethink how we deliver services to our citizens. I've said it many times over and over. We have got to start to diversify this. There is no possible way you can study it every which way but Sunday. Ad valorem is just never going to keep pace with everything that we have to provide. Tourism as a statewide, and I would venture to guess it would probably be the same thing in this county, generates about 25% of your sales tax. We are probably one of the only counties left in the state that does not have an optional sales tax. One penny of sales tax would be equivalent to just roughly $22 million. And 25% of that would be produced by tourism, out-of-towners. So as we begin to think about all of this, I'm still going to go back and say this is something that we really need to investigate. We need to look at it. There's a lot of misinformation out there. A 1% sales tax is not charged on primary grocery staples. It is not charged on prescriptions. It maxes out at $5,000 of any major purchase. At the end of the day, it would probably only cost a citizen less than $50 a year to generate that 1 penny in our county. So that's something, and when we talk about diversifying, I'm not trying to say that we're going to add taxes. What I want to do is I want to get us to a position where everybody wants transparency and accountability. Let's find those alternative revenue sources. Let's have those projects that you have the transparent accountability, and then you start to reduce your millage and get that millage down. But we have pots of money that we know exactly where we can keep up with the needs of this county, and that we can have the transparency and accountability to our citizens that they beg for every day.
Thank you. And diapers are not taxed, adult or baby. Commissioner Davis.
So, Mr. Brown, Commissioner Kennard, I just want to address TDC very quickly, and then I'll move on to the bigger things that I wanted to talk about. TDC is already diversified in terms of we are marketing the entire county, and Nat Geo drives a lot of traffic to Crystal River. That was the big rocket ship that launched Crystal River versus any other place in the county. We spend a lot of resources marketing Inverness, Homosassa, and Floral City, along with Crystal River. Secondly, you're absolutely right, Mr. Brown. We do need to start investing in, what is it, John? It's destination. You're moving away from destination marketing into destination management. And having grown up in Crystal River and grown up going on the river in a boat, I'm like, oh my God. Like, if I were a resident, I'd be not happy a lot of times out on my river, you know? And so I absolutely agree. And I've been chair for a little over a year, and I have met with both cities about please come to us with ideas. And we don't go out necessarily seeking, and maybe that's something that we need to do, is to go out and be more an activist board, to go out and seek to solve things in the county. We are more come to us with your plan, and if we like it, we'll give you money. So, and I've gone on record in the Chronicle saying, please, Homosassa, come to us for money for the restoration, because we just voted for the $250 for Crystal River. So, you know, I hear everybody's concerns. Just know that a lot of what you're talking about is already in place, but maybe there's a little bit more we can do in terms of getting that going. So I absolutely agree. I want to back up and say that some of the best advice I've gotten is you can't do everything well, so pick 3 things that you really want to do when you're a commissioner. My number one thing was having a strategic plan. And as I said, you can boil a strategic plan down to a billboard on the highway of 6 words or less. And that is where nature and community thrive. I almost started crying on that video. Staff, kudos. Hear it loudly. Kudos for that. That was very well done. And I've never been prouder of my county or more encouraged by our future in watching that video. And that's the power of that messaging. So the strategic plan is well underway. I'm very happy about that. The other thing is economic development and restructuring our taxes, which I absolutely, you know, I'm not going to reiterate what Commissioner Bays said, but that's absolutely true. We need to get our millage down to help bring in more businesses, but we got to look at alternate funding sources, and there's going to be a little bit of a salad situation for the next few years while we figure out, you know, all the pieces and parts that make that up. The third thing, besides economic development, in the strategic plan, is that I have been working on the side, not as part of my commissioner duties, on generational poverty. And I do think we need to have a real conversation about homelessness and putting people who are not on a good path, who are younger, onto a better path. So one of the things and I have some ideas that I'll share later about that, but what I tell people is, I say, imagine that everything that you have is stripped away except your knowledge. You don't have any bank accounts, you don't have a house, you don't have your contact list, you have nothing, okay? I challenge you to try to work your way through the support systems. Oh, well, you don't qualify for this, you have to call this person, and then you're on hold, and then this, and then that. It's very difficult. And so we spend trillions of dollars on fighting poverty, and we get nowhere. But the greatest strength of Citrus County is our community spirit. We're the community that launched the nation's best most amazing YMCA with no debt. So we can do this, and I have some ideas that I'd like to share later for doing that. But that's the thing that really energizes me, is to work both ends of the system. The school district gets them in the middle, and they do an admirable job. I would like us to look at pre-school district age, prenatal to 3, where 90% of the brain is developed, by the way, And then the backside of that, after they're coming out of the school system, maybe they dropped out of high school, maybe they have a GED. What can we do on those formative years where if you are born into generational poverty, what do? You end up cranking out kids, typically, and getting off on a bad path. So those two age groups, I think the county can use not necessarily dollars, but influence to help those two areas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else like to? Oh, I'm sorry. Cabot McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me go ahead and say that we believe that the city of Inverness continues to thrive. We have excellent leadership in our city manager, Eric Williams. We have a unified council, even though we will sometimes disagree. I think we do that in a very civil fashion. We're very excited to see 41 North actually taking shape before our very eyes. This is going to be a big deal for our community, and this is something that has been decades long in the process. I should say the process of waiting, but it's coming about right now. The trail, which is one of our number one priorities of the MPO, still has places where it needs to be resurfaced and areas that need to be replaced. The trail is a big deal to our entire community, and we want to have those baby boomers come in, bring their $5,000 bicycles and ride to their heart's content, and to do that safely. Infrastructure issues are facing us right now, and these are big ticket items. As you know, septic to sewer, it ain't sexy, but it sure is necessary. And we're talking about projects that cost in the M's, okay? M stands for millions. Those things are important to us. One item that I wanted just to go ahead and throw in here, just to keep on people's minds, is this. I don't see it mentioned as a priority or a high priority, although I have no problem with what our current priorities are from a countywide basis. But you can drive through our communities and you can see more trash in areas that should be beautiful pasture lands and fences where there is nothing but green grass growing. And there's just so much trash now that we find in our community. I think there is something that we can do about that. It's kind of like going to prom and you're wearing cutoffs and a sweatshirt. People that come to our community want to see a healthy community, and they want to see the beauty of our community. And I think that's something that we can look at, and hopefully it would not be a huge cost to us. Let me just go ahead and make one more comment about the Valerie Theater, and Linda Vega is our representative on the Valerie Theater Committee. The Valerie Theater continues to thrive. It is now what we had projected it to be so many years ago. It's hard to get a date to have something. I'm not talking about a personal date. I can always take my wife. It's hard to get a free date for the Valerie that is open. We have plays, we have movies. The community is now starting to really appreciate that. If you haven't been to the theater, if you haven't seen something going on live at the Valerie, you're missing a part of the city of Inverness that you need to go to. So we're very happy with where we are. We have got a long way to go. We enjoy our relationship with the sheriff, with the county commission, with the school board. We're thriving, and we've got a lot more to do, but we're anxious and we're very positive about the direction that we're going. We want people to know that if you want to come and open up a business, you want to do that and stake your claim to the city of Inverness. If you want to have a wonderful place to live so that your kids can grow up in a healthy atmosphere, you want to do that in the city of Inverness. And if you want to come and retire somewhere and have a busy, active, involved retirement, you can do that in the city of Inverness. And we're making that a reality for our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. I got
Put your card up.
Sandy Counts first.
Cindy.
Oh, Cindy, sorry, thank you, Cindy. Okay.
So, yeah, I wanted to jump back on the TDC funds. Every time I'm at the meetings, the funds, the money keeps going up and up and up. And the city of Crystal River, our expenses are going up and up and up to accommodate all these tourists. So the previous chair, his motto was, we're gonna get them to Crystal River and you take care of the rest. So our citizens are having to bear the weight of all these tourists, and I just don't think it's fair to our residents. I would really like both cities, Inverness and Crystal River, to work a little more closely with Discover Crystal River and maybe have them come up with some ways of helping us with our funding instead of us having to go for and ask for it. So I think we should be working a little closer with those folks. For example, Kings Bay Park, that we were successful this past couple of years. We moved all the kayak vendors out of Hunter Springs, which was right in everybody's backyard, and it was an unsafe situation. We moved them all down to Kings Bay Park with the promise that we would improve the park and make it safe for tourists coming in. Just this past week, a couple of our kayak launch things failed, and there was not a safe way to get our tourists from the dock to the water. Our city manager has gone through a process to get some ideas with engineering how to redo our whole Kings Bay Park, and it comes at a price tag of $3 million. Our citizens don't really need to be paying for that. I think the TDC funding needs to be helping improve these parks. So agree with improving our parks. Also, law enforcement on the water. We're having to pay for extra law enforcement to keep these folks in check. We've got signage out now. We're creating videos on proper behavior if you're a tourist on a kayak, not what to do, we're having to close Three Sisters Springs for restoration, and I'm, for one, watching these kayaks and the tourists pulling up onto the shoreline, and where it says do not tie up on trees, they do it anyway. They get up on the shoreline, and that's been part of the degradation of our park. So we need more law enforcement out there, so I just really feel like the TDC funds need to be paying their fair share for that.
Thank you.
Should have told them about the sawgrass.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mrs.
it's all
Counts.
out. That's a good idea.
They are.
Well, I'd just like to say, I'm in my 7th year on the school board, and Mrs. Davis, I hear what you're saying, because I was 28 years in the classroom, and I had homeless children, I had children with problems. And so I have always truly thought education is the only way out of poverty. It really is. And some of the kids have proven that true, and some of them have gone the other way and sunk into the mud. But part of our problem is, again, this mental health issue. We have hired social workers, we've got nurses in every one of our schools, and it doesn't seem to be working enough. So we've got to provide some kind of forum for these children. And I think their best influence is peer influence, because sometimes we don't get the point across. So I don't know how we would do it, but I thought back in the 70s, I moved here in 73, I thought, we should probably have dormitories at high schools, like colleges do, and keep them confined and happy and content. We have a fabulous nutrition program at our school. Roy Pistoni runs our food thing. We're feeding our kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so they're not hungry. Wish we could get rid of their cell phones and their social media, but we can't do that either. But we do need some help, and I will tell you, I go to these state meetings and just came back from legislative days 2 weeks ago, and I am so thankful to be in Citrus County, because we are doing so many things right in this county. We really are. But we still have some troubled kids that need more direction, and I think it's probably all of the levels. It's, I know we can catch them in pre-K to 3, and that's a good focus. But we need something for all of the kids. The middle school kids are really, they're lost. They're just trying to figure out where was 6th grade, and now I'm headed for 9th grade, and they just seem to be in a no man's land when they're in middle school. And so we're waiting for a lot of the school psychologists. A couple years ago, we partnered with the University of Florida, and we found out that through going to a state meeting that these kids that go to college, these school psychologists, have to do a 1-year unpaid internship. We partnered up with a little college, and we got 6, and we hired them as parapros during their internship, and they were in our schools. But we still have children that are, they're doing their drugs, they're drinking too much, they're seeing a lot of social media that really upsets them, and I just would really like to see some of this mental health stuff really do something. I'm tired of hearing it. I've heard it for 7 years, and it's still not working for all of our kids. And I don't know how our medical community can come in and do this. I have to compliment our SROs in our schools because they are doing teen citations, and that's turning around some of our kids. But I'd still like our medical community to step up a little bit more and provide a little bit more help for these kids in a way that they take advantage of it and learn from it. But I do thank you for all the help that you do give us, because with all this tourism talk and all these new developments, we're already busting at the seam at the school. And I think Floral City's the only one that's under 90% capacity. We've got some of our elementary schools are over 100% capacity right now, so we're going to be in the same whole money crunch that you guys are, and we don't have any income, because as soon as you raise your ad valorem taxes here, the legislature of Tallahassee says, "Oh, well, we're going to drop your millage rate," and so they seem to control all the funds that we have. But I hope we're good stewards of the tax dollars that we do, but because we do have first come, first served is our kids in the classroom and our teachers, and everything else is on hold. But we are busting at the seams, and I want to just thank you for all that you do for our school and our kids.
Mrs. Counts, thank you, and I appreciate what you do. I'm going to go to Commissioner Finnegan in one moment, but what I wanted to try to accomplish today is to find our 3 main goals that we can unite on. What are you looking for from the county or the cities or the sheriff's office? If you can think about that and then put that as one of our accomplishments that we can address, or initiatives that we can address.
Well, I think probably we're going to have long-range planning for new school. We do have to focus on these mental health issues that affect our kids in the school, and we do have to somehow boost up that education. We're finding right now we've got to put some CTE stuff back in our classroom. It's not all about STEM and STEAM. We're opening up a welding class at Lecanto High School.
I know.
Because these kids want to learn young. We tried a construction academy at WTC. It didn't work. It was too late. So now we've got a construction academy at Citrus High School. All of that is very expensive.
It's hopefully going $350,000 going to the governor's desk.
Yeah.
We were all there, all 5 commissioners, and we all pushed that initiative, that ask.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you down for a long-range plan with our new growth, and we spent a lot of time last night talking. We had a meeting till 7 o'clock talking about our mental health problem.
Yeah.
It
just doesn't seem to be. Everybody's talking about it.
Well, it takes money, and
what we're doing is not really working.
We are talking about it, but this is a new board, and we are moving forward, and we're trying to find the money too.
Yeah.
Always comes down to money, folks.
Always money.
So thank you, Commissioner Finnegan.
Do we talk in these, or?
Yes.
Are they on?
Yes.
Okay. A few things I wanted to touch on to address Councilman McBride. Great conversation about litter, but it's actually one of the county's priorities under Beautify Citrus. That was one of my topics that I brought up. And that, for me, is more about economic development, because if our county looks attractive, businesses will want to come here, the right people will want to move here, the right tourists will want to visit here. Litter is an arm of that. We just came up with this pieces of our strategic plan. I went out and visited Commissioner Curry out of Marion County. He was gracious enough to put a team together to meet with me, and they have been working on it for years. And they have spent a lot of money, actually, but their litter problem was out of control. I mean, tons of illegal dumping. So I have a lot of notes from them. And of course, we're in Tallahassee the next few weeks, so I haven't had time to pour over those. But I am going to look through that and meet with Steve Howard with staff and see what we could do from our solid waste perspective. In my vision, I think that on the litter end, we can do better and not have to throw a lot of money at it. But I don't want to speak out of turn until we review things. Part of Beautify Citrus was also directional signage. Eric and I had a conversation about that in one of our briefings, about some directional signs that look a little prettier, fancier, to all the places, whether it's Crystal River, Homosassa, Inverness, Hernando, wherever it is. So these are things staff is even working on. So I think that's probably going to be our least expensive goal that is attainable, that we can reach that. Some of these things are probably going to take several years, but anything that we can do to make Citrus County look better and more attractive, like I said, we want the right businesses, the right tourists, the right residents. I thought about TDC. I know we talk about all the money that the tourism brings. I don't know if the TDC would figure that out or who, but I would like to know also what it costs us. I think that's something that we should be looking at. Yes, more tourists come in is bringing all this money, but how much extra does it cost in our parks, in our sheriff's office? What are the needs that we have, and see how we can balance all of this a little bit better. When we talk about pushing an area, which obviously Crystal River was the first area heavily pushed, did we look before we did that, okay, what is this going to look like? What's the impact going to be? Because I'm fearful, Homosassa will be next also, which is great, but we need to prepare, and some of those things we're going to get some signs up and create quiet zones and try to make it a little bit easier as people understand this. That will be easier on law enforcement because, of course, we're draining that service with the tourism. If it's pushed out to the lakes in Hernando or Floral City or the bike trails, we need to have a plan, I would say, before the big marketing push happens of what the impacts are going to be. Lastly, working pretty much my whole life doing these things, trying to help children and control poverty. Not to be the Debbie Downer, but even Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. I agree that education is probably one of the best ways that we can reach families and children. And Sandy, you could probably help with this. Several years ago, in Crystal River and Promise Village, they had a program for parents that wanted to go back to school and work on their GED. They would help them with that and get jobs, and at the same time provided childcare, provided parenting education, provided food. I went in there with CASA. We had all these wraparound services, and I think if we look at young parents, I know at least Citrus High School, I'm not familiar with the other schools with WTC, like if young moms got pregnant, they could still finish their education. And again, all these wraparound services would come in to help them. Commissioner Davis is right on in that 0 to 3, 0 to 4, those development ages are important. There's so many good people out there doing this. I think they just need to be brought to the table, and the community needs to understand how to help better. I think off the top of my head, like Big Brothers, Big Sisters. That's a perfect example. I'm not even sure in the community where they are or what the volunteers are. I've been a little bit far removed from them lately, but there are ways that we can reach children. I know like United Way has reading pals. They go in to read. So they have, it used to be called Shared Service Alliance, I think the Community Alliance meetings where they all get together. So I applaud you for bringing these people to the table, but I think we have the right moving parts there. It's helping them, I think, do better at what they're doing because people have been doing this for a very long time. And I think that we all know we're never going to fix mental illness. We're never going to fix or eradicate poverty. But whatever we can do to help the people in our community, obviously that's the direction we need to go in. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff, what? Crystal, sorry. I need like a light board that shows us our colored cards.
No.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm newly elected, so I'm very new to all of this. But since we are we are working very hard on 41 and beautifying that area and trying to promote Inverness in that way. I would love to see a partnership with the TDC or the county to kind of help do improvements to Whispering Pines, because it is something that everybody uses. And it is falling on our tax base. So I would love to see us all kind of come together and, you know I would love to see a RV type park there to help with like travel ball tourism, to help, beautify our, ball fields, because I think that type of thing would benefit everyone. I mean, that would bring some of the tourism to us and have them just go visit manatees on their off time. But they're not crowding y'all's area. They can kind of crowd our area, and but then it also helps benefit our downtown area. But I would love to partner with, the county, even Chris Rivera. My biggest thing is we don't exist in a bubble. We all have to work together. Like, Inverness isn't alone. Like, we are, with everyone. So, and I think the Wayfaring signs, I think if we can kind of push it towards the, oh my God, my brain just went blank. The airports, because I know y'all are trying to do that. If we can all work in tandem with that, because I mean, we're already starting that process and kind of like working together to kind of navigate things a little better. But that's one of my goals, is just trying to work more cohesive together.
Thank you. And we got forward together. So
Yes.
I agree with you completely. Thank you. Commissioner Bays, who was first, for crying out loud? Do I have a moderator? Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Good things have been said all the way around. I really like what I'm hearing. And I've been in City of Inverness government since 1999, and drastic changes have taken place. And I must tell you, it's all for the better. So we're excited about the things that are happening. I'm excited about our county commission. I'm excited that we got 4 ladies on that commission that not only think with their brains, they think with their heart as well. So we see things that are occurring that normally guys don't think about. I must tell you that I'm impressed with that, ladies, for sure.
Thank you,
No
sir.
offense to you, Commissioner Kennard.
Right.
But I know you have a job on your hands keeping up with them, that's for sure.
He cannot keep up.
I love the relationships that have been developed, particularly, and not to cast aspersions on anybody, but particularly since Eric Williams took over as our city manager. His ability to communicate with others is extraordinarily terrific, and we're so pleased that we have that, developed that area now where we all can communicate with one another and not have any issues that will affect us to the point where we don't want to communicate. So that's been an exciting change for us, and we're grateful for it in the city. A lot of good things are happening, as you know. We're booked up into the first of next year with the Valerie Theater. Our depot district, the depot building is booked up. So many good things happening. Our events are getting to the point where everyone is successful. Sandy Levin, who is on our architectural and aesthetic review committee, is also more than that. She does a lot of things with the city merchants, help to form the merchants partnership, and they have really congealed as a group of people willing to get things done and move forward. And our city manager and the staff do everything to help that. So that's great cooperation. And we want to also let you know that we are looking at a beach at Wallace Brooks Park, and that might help relieve Crystal River of their overflow of people at their beach. So once that takes place, then perhaps we'll get people that'll come to that beach as well. So Our Whispering Pines Park, that's doing terrific. We have a lot of county residents that utilize it, more than city residents do. And so we might be looking sometime for some help to go ahead and bring athletics in from using groups throughout the state that will have events with one community against another. And I think we've done that already with softball, if I'm not mistaken. So good things are happening there as well. Security, I must say, under our sheriff, Mike Prendergast, our policing efforts in our city are extraordinary. We have reports from the captain on the east side periodically about the crime. And when you hear things about breaking and enterings up 100%, they went from 1 to 2. So, you know, you're really pleased with that because that inures to tourism too. Who wants to go into a crime-ridden city or county? So our crime is really pretty much under control. We know we've got issues with drugs and things like that. And I know that the sheriff's group is doing the very best that they can to go ahead and help slow that down and try to eradicate it. But that's something that this whole country lives with right now. I would like to see, and perhaps get help from the county to culturally advance our county as well. Many of you know that the one of the great explorers, Hernando Cortez, was here in the 1500s. But there's not much said about that, nor much indication of where he was. I understand there might be a sign somewhere where he passed through, but I have talked to the historical group over there at the museum, and we're looking at seeing where there might be more information on that, and also regarding the Seminole Indians who really lived from Inglis all the way down into Dade City and Zephyr Hills area. So it's a big area that was covered. And I think that needs to be brought up for those who love history, who love the types of, I mean, I'm amazed that somebody loves to come see our historic courthouse because it's unique in all the country where it points to true north as opposed to any other direction. And I'm totally amazed that people are coming to our city to see something like that. But what we need to do, in my opinion, is to develop the history of this area. I think it would thrive more into the tourism as well for those who love that. And if we could get monies gathered to put up historic plaques, get the research done where the Osceola might have lived. Now we know Osceola had something to do with Fort Cooper, perhaps the Dade City area as well, Dade City Massacre and things like that. That's an important thing I think that this county is missing out on. We have the Indian mounds, but to have that where they lived, where they had their villages, also to talk about the runaway slaves that came down and how the Indians had gone ahead and taken care of them, and they did a lot of work for the Indians, and the Indians kept them secure. So there was a lot of history in that involved. In the Second Seminole War, there was a big battle over that with U.S. soldiers coming down under Andrew Jackson. So that's something that we need to go ahead and take a look at. So our small town done right is doing great. We have an extraordinary council, extraordinary staff. A lot of things are happening, and we're getting a lot of kudos for all the wonderful things that are occurring there. And we appreciate the cooperation of the commission and hoping that we might be able to get some help when we develop our beach at Wallace Brooks Park. And also if there's something could be done to keep our waters clean in Lake Henderson and that chain as well. And we know that's a big ask, but the reality is that we have bass tournaments, we have people that enjoy the water, and as long as we can keep it clean and not have muck on the bottom, we'd be so much better off than where we are today. So I know you guys got a lot on your plate, but that's something that is a want that we could have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I do want to say that we are at a pivotal point in this county. Ken Frank, I don't know where you are, Ken Frank, Crystal River, Eric in Inverness, this board, you know, I respect each and every one of these, my colleagues here, and that we're all entrenched into Citrus County. We care about Citrus County, and we really have an opportunity, especially with these two managers, this board. I've always been a huge fan of the school board. I'm starting to like the sheriff a little bit. So
There you go. And I had all these compliments that I was gonna.
I like him a lot because he's Army. So we really have an amazing group, and I'm excited of what we can accomplish. 2 suggestions. I did hear a rumor Cortez stopped in Beverly Hills, so we should probably get that going for some sort of tourism in my poor little district. And if you could get a manatee on that beach, you'd be golden. I don't know yet. Don't think it would work, but anyway. So Commissioner Bays.
Well, again, if we just go back to some of the core functions of what local government is supposed to do, it is public safety. And in 2018, if you look at the demographics, that takes up about 24% of the statewide budget. Commissioner Kennard, Ken Frank, and I think you were in that meeting. Mr. Howard was in that meeting. Every year, the chamber puts together a legislative summit. We go to Tallahassee. I specifically asked for a meeting with Kevin, I can't think of his last name, head of emergency management. Guthrie. Every time this state has an emergency, we keep reinventing the wheel. And this legislative cycle, what they're saying is we want to come out of this, so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time. We have more preparedness. What we heard in that meeting that day when we talked about it, what they learned out of Lee County is you can't, certain areas, if you're close to the coast, you cannot have a temporary RV setting in your yard during rehab or trying to get your home back in place. And what they really would like to see done is have a place that you can identify and have these resources prepared and ready to be able to have these trailers in those events. The takeaway for that, and you can help me out here a little bit, there's some reimbursement cost for that. And if we were to do that, I think Whispering Pines Park and developing an RV park there is a perfect utilization of potentially getting some of that paid for so that we could use that in the event of an emergency to put these trailers on. And the sidebar of that is that then it becomes an RV park in the interim that we can actually utilize, and then expanding the Whispering Pines Park for those regulated tournament ball fields. We talk about tourism. There's no cleaner tourism and revenue generator than traveling ball teams. It is families. They use less resources, less public safety involvement. It is a perfect example of really good, high return on investment for tourism. So I think that is something we should really focus on. It's a big thing. It's family oriented. We talk about some of the issues that we have with our children. What a great way. We have got to be a community that lifts families up, gives them hope, and gets them together at the table as a family. So I think those are really good projects. I would like to see something like that investigated. If we can maybe get the RV park going, it helps. It's a 2-prong approach, and I think it helps tourism and it helps the city of Inverness with some of their needs.
Thank you.
It was because it's me.
Thank you.
By default.
Ms. Vega.
Previously, when I first went to city council, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, I sat on TDC. and Commissioner Bays was chairman at that time, and I sat on it a few years into the next chairmanship. And it's nice to see that you still have that passion. You always had good forward-thinking ideas. During my last couple of years on TDC, it was changed to Discover Crystal River, and your problem started. Inverness has been to the TDC several times looking for funds for our events. We pay for and manage our events completely on our own and our marketing. And we've looked to TDC for some assistance with that. Now, it's my understanding too on TDC, wasn't the additional 5-cent tax towards capital improvement projects when it was added? And I'd like to see some of those funds used for some improvements at the park, make our fields the level they need to be for traveling ball clubs. And Inverness is also looking to make the main entrance to Whispering Pines Park on the newly renovated and expanded 41 North entrance, which should be at the stoplight across from the shopping center. And that'll increase, I believe, the usage of the park also, a more direct route into it, not off the main drag. Could the TDC possibly look into allotting in their budget an annual amount that the cities would get for their own marketing? I'm going to tell you that the historic tours are a great idea. Whenever we're traveling, that's what we do. We go through small towns, and I'll Google up what to do in whatever, LJ, Georgia. Well, while I was up there this past month, just out of fun with the friend I was with, I said, I'm going to Google up what to do in Inverness. Why one of the top 3 things to do in Inverness came up, swim with the manatees, I have no idea. Because I know we're not marketing that. But it's all part of the overcrowding in Crystal River. So that does need to be addressed, and I think it needs to be diversified more, the marketing for the cities of our town. Our cities are Crystal River and Inverness, while the others are areas. They're not even townships, but we have the infrastructure and we've got the ability to assist with this, and I think we could use some assistance from the TDC in getting it done even more.
Anybody else? Commissioner Davis.
I'll start with the last one then. I have a list of other things. Thank you, Chair. Ms. Vega, I did meet with, I actually pushed this last year. I met with both cities' management and with management from the Visitors Convention Bureau. And I said I wanted to see a plan from both cities that they would work together, the 2 city managers, to work together to come back to TDC with a plan that's equitable from both cities. And we have yet to see it. And what's on me from that meeting is Mr. Williams, very nicely, where did he go? He invited me to come out and tour Whispering Pines, and that's on me. I didn't follow through. It's just, you know how it is. We're drinking from a fire hose. So I do need to do that, and I absolutely want to do that, and I already put it on my follow-up items from this. Get your butt over to Whispering Pines and do the tour, and I want to see the full vision for that. But you have always had my vote on TDC to do. We have one of the 5 cents is put to capital. And again, what I said earlier is that we are moving more from destination marketing to destination management. We do have a management issue. We do need to improve our facilities to handle all the success we've had. And once again, we have diversified. Like all the marketing, I push that because, quite frankly, I want to offload Crystal River a little bit. I actively want to put tourists in other areas of the county because we don't need to put all our eggs in one basket, the manatee basket and the Crystal River basket, right? So I completely agree with you. But clearly, since there is so much, we had a big discussion about this yesterday on the board. We're having a lot of discussion about it here. Clearly, people are not happy with what TDC has been doing. So I will put a lot more energy into making sure that everybody becomes happy with what has really been a hugely successful board in this county in terms of bringing tourists, right? And it's one of our major industries. I'm just going to go in reverse order then, I guess. Mayor Plaisted, history. Thank you. Love that. I brought that up for the strategic plan. I'll circle back with staff. It's on my action item list to make sure that in the strategic plan we have some of that. So the Hernando School was laughed at as not being historic, and it is, and we need to do something with that. It would be great to energize the little town of Hernando with something really cool there. Love that idea. I am a huge proponent of Too Far. My very first trip to Tallahassee, I was talking a lot about Too Far and getting that rolling on the lake. So and that was several years ago. I got a note from Too Far saying apparently whatever you did worked, because that's where the first seed funding came from Tallahassee. So I'm absolutely on board with that. Commissioner Finnegan, yes, Prosperity Citrus is about pulling together. Thank you for getting that. It is about pulling together resources we already have. And that's why I said it's not necessarily more money, it's just more collegial effort. And a lot of folks that are looking at us from the audience right now, I have roped into working on this. And so to my mind, working on bracketing the school system, that's the one thing all of us, including the sheriff, including the cities, including the county, including the school board, that's the one place if we bracket the school system with help before they get a hold of them and after they're done with them, those two areas, anything we can do to break down those silos, work together, which is nonprofits, all the government entities, the chamber, and roping in a whole lot of our retirees to help, read to kids and do things like that. That's an enormous challenge to try to weave all that together. Enormous challenge. But if we all show up and work on that, maybe I've got my rose-colored glasses on, not that I'm famous for, but I do believe that we can make a real difference here. So thank you for understanding that. And I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Sheriff.
Madam Chair, Councilmember Brown was up before me. I'd rather let him go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, please.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for their comments. And, one of the disadvantages of speaking first, you don't get an opportunity to add some of the great things that y'all said. So I want to segue off of some of y'all's comments. First of all, let me segue off of Mr. Cabot's comments about the trash. Question. What is the difference between throwing trash out a window versus somebody driving up with a car, planting a sign into the roadside, or nailing a sign onto a telephone pole? My answer is there's no difference. I know our city manager and our code enforcement in the city of Crystal River is very, very proactive and aggressive in removal of illegal signs within the city. Our city is only 6 square miles, though. So I would hope that the county would be as proactive and aggressive in removing the illegal signs in the county as the city of Crystal River is. Because to me, there's no difference of throwing something out the window versus pulling up in a car and nailing something to the ground or to the telephone pole. So thank you for that. To Crystals, I'm an avid camper. We camp 1 week a month. And I don't know about Whispering Pines. I don't know the logistics of the Whispering Pines, but I will tell you, Fort Cooper is an ideal site for, I know there's primitive camping there now, but Fort Cooper is a premier site to have trailer and RV camping in that park. I go to Fort Cooper probably once a month, and for those of you that visit Fort Cooper, it's not the most utilized of our state parks. I mean, there's sometimes we'll go out there and you'll be a handful of people, and it's a beautiful, beautiful park. So I don't know if the county has any leverage with the state to maybe bring up the idea of introducing camping in Fort Cooper. And that would increase the utilization of that park and also help bring some folks to the east, okay? I wanted to tag on to, I don't remember who made the comment about Whispering Pines again, with a number of county folks that visit a city park. We actually did a study on Hunter Springs Park. This was a couple of years ago. We did a study of that park, and 90% of the folks were outside the city that utilized the park. So, thank you, Mayor. And lastly, and for at least for now, and again, this is a big, big subject, and this is probably one of those subjects that we just kind of need to hear and then digest, and then maybe come up with a strategy, is the state's attempt of minimizing local rule, which is important to the cities, and I'm sure it's important to the county too. I always like to using the analogy that Tallahassee is continually telling Washington, we know what we're doing in the state of Florida. Stay out of our backyard. Well, I would like the same message go to Tallahassee. Because we know what's happening in Citrus County. We know what's happening within Crystal River. Other than safety measures and some things the state has to get involved in, we know what's best for our community. We understand there's some bad players out there that needs to be addressed, but don't punish us all for a couple of the bad players. Thank you, Sheriff, for letting me go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sheriff, please.
Thank you, ma'am. So my first comment is to thank Chair Schlabach for the invitation to attend this summit. And we've talked about it a couple of times, and she asked me just yesterday, Sheriff, are you still going to be able to make it? And while we've got a lot of things going on, like arresting a 60-year-old who battered his 85-year-old mother, and she's probably on her deathbed if she survives, it'll be purely by the grace of God. And also arresting yesterday a correctional officer who battered one of his fellow co-workers while on duty at the Citrus County Jail. So we are phenomenally busy just by what you've evidenced in the arrest reports and the things that you've seen taking place across our community. But Chair Schlabach, your leadership last year in getting into the numbers and understanding the comprehensive efforts that we went to analyze where we were a year ago and the needs that we had going forward was a great stepping stone for really the whole commission understanding the complex nature of public safety in today's environment. So again, thank you for that. And also, whoever from staff put this little note-taking book on my place, I want to thank them for that too, because this is, when you talk about forward together.
What's your message?
It says, if it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. It's the hard that makes it great. And what a great message to complement the forward together concept for why we're here together today, talking about all the important things taking place in our county, and also posturing us for the great future that this county has within its grasp if we work together in harmony to achieve the excellence that's there right now. It's the secret's out. Everybody knows that Citrus County is here, and it is truly the gem of the Nature Coast. And if we don't invest now for that future that's already in our laps, shame on all of us as leaders, and we're failing to do the duties that we said we were going to step forward and do. So again, thank you for your leadership, and to the members who were on the commission last year when we went through the budget process. Thank you for your help with that. As I told you earlier, we are full up in our sworn positions. In fact, we have a waiting list of sworn folks who are about to graduate from the academy, or some that are already graduated from the academy, waiting for an opportunity to come on and on board with us. And we're attracting them from not just here in Citrus County and our surrounding counties. They're coming from all around the state and really around the country to join our team, because we've got something going on. And to the staff member who put together that video that you used to highlight our great community, we want to steal that, because we want to use that as we market our agency and all of the amenities that our community has to offer to folks who want to come here and work and be part of the fabric of our successes that we all write together. Mr. Howard and his efforts to grab the bull by the horns and take a lot of things for our county forward, not just in serving the members of the board, but really serving the citizens. I think that's a huge breath of fresh air. And I think it speaks volumes for the professionalism that he brings to the position that he holds of great importance for our community. And I also want to thank him for making the comment of, without public safety, you don't have a community. And that's not a new phrase, but it too is a breath of fresh air to hear something like that from an important official in our community, because we truly do have communities thanks to the public safety that's put in place by the community's fathers and mothers, the leaders who care so deeply about the community, and that's why communities get established in the first place. Last year, when I put together the budget request, I highlighted a couple of things that we harvested from the data that's out on the Florida Chamber's scorecard. And I talked about a couple of those things. Right now on the scorecard, it shows that we've gained 1,245 new jobs in our community over the past 12 months. We have a decreasing number of unemployed in our ranks of only 1,900 folks, and our unemployment rate is declining at 3.8%. But here's a very telling statistic that I highlighted last year in our budget request. We had a net wealth migration into our county of $117 million per year. Has anybody looked at what the number is less than 12 months later? It's $149.76 million of new wealth coming into our county for the preceding 12 months. That's a 27% increase in less than a year since I harvested those numbers off of the scorecard sheet last year when we put our budget letter together. That speaks volumes about, again, what's going on in Citrus County and the goodness and the greatness that Mr. Howard pointing to that's occurring all across our community, from our city of Inverness, our county seat, to the city of Crystal River and everything that's in between. We are doing things the right way. But as I alluded to in my budget letter last year, our public safety architecture is very fragile right now. And the elasticity among our employees, those valued human capital assets that we have, is truly a very fragile commodity. And last year we said that we had a shortfall in patrol alone of 48 sworn positions. And we knew that that was a tough bill to swallow in one fell swoop. And that's why we proposed that we had 22 last year. And the direction from the board is, with Sheriff, when you're filled, come back and see us and we'll talk about a budget amendment. And we've subsequently said we're full and we need to now do a budget amendment so we can get ahead of that power curve. Preliminarily, I will tell everybody that's here that we have analyzed everything across the agency, and based on our current population, our current number of calls for service, which includes well over an average that most communities see that are off the beaten path for the tourists that are out there that generate calls for service, of over 500,000 tourists that come into our community every year. We're 58 short right now in sworn to meet our daily requirements and meet the demands for services that the citizens are already placing upon us. And we need to get after some of those things that are absolutely vital to our community and especially to our economy. We need to put more deputy sheriffs on the water. That's been mentioned a couple of times here, to get out and patrol very aggressively some of those areas where people don't respect our waterways, they don't respect our natural environment, and they certainly don't respect the citizens who've invested their priceless treasure over the course of their lifetime savings to purchase their piece of beauty and their piece of happiness that they want to have here in our community. And we should have every day a full squad of 11 to 12 deputies out there on our waterways. And when the climate is not allowing us to be on the water, we need to be on land patrolling those areas that don't get enough attention, that require the specialized equipment to get after those areas. And so we know we can't swallow all of that in one swoop, but we need to work on it incrementally so that we can continue to meet the expectations and that our community can remain a safe community going forward. So, and what I would sum this up is that my statement that I shared with Mr. Howard a few weeks ago in a letter that we forwarded to Congressman Bilirakis is that our community is expanding at a rapid pace, and the preparation and forecasting and providing first responder services that are commensurate to this growth remains paramount. For perspective, from 1990 to 2020, Citrus County's population has increased by a staggering 65%, according to the United States Census Bureau. Public safety architecture has not increased commensurately with that 65% population growth. All indications show this rate of progression will not slow down anytime soon, and the advent of the Suncoast Parkway and its northward continuation into our county further connects us to the Tampa Bay area and other major markets across the state of Florida. So as we deal with that, we must prepare ourselves for the demands that are here today already, as well as those future demands that are going to be coming over the horizon. And I can't compliment you enough on taking the leadership role to work together as we move forward together to accomplish all of the strategic needs of our citizens here in this community. And as I talk about the human capital needs, I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the stuff that Mr. Howard and I have already talked about and that we talked about during our budget meetings last year, is that we need to build the infrastructure for the public safety apparatus to be able to support the demands of the community, but also support our training needs and our equipping and our maintenance needs for this agency. Right now, we've got an aviation facility out at the Inverness Airport. We've got a fleet yard that we lease at great expense in Lecanto. We've got an employee distribution center, thanks to our great partnership with Mr. Eric Williams and the city of Inverness over at Whispering Pines Park. And we love that relationship because it's close to operations, but it's on the Inverness side of the county, we're out of space there. The EOC, we're out of space there, and at operations over in Inverness, we're out of space there, and we still need to expand our evidence capability because with more population, more crimes are going to occur. Even though we have a low crime rate, we still need to address those needs to store that evidence until the cases are finally adjudicated and processed. And we're using the old Emergency Operations Center right now as part of our evidence storage facility, and sooner or later it's going to exceed its service life expectancy, and it's either going to cause us to come back for a huge investment to keep that facility open, or we look forward and we invest forward to protect that evidence so that we have good adjudication of cases on the back end when those cases come to trial. So as we grow, we have to address the facilities needs of this agency to serve our population and take care of those dynamics that are there for our citizens. So thank you again for the invitation, and thanks for the opportunity to speak and address some of those needs that we have coming forward.
Thank you. I appreciate your statistics. I can't see how we've increased our population 65% though, so I'm gonna look into that. That seems.
My statistician, Captain Troy Hess back there, confirmed those numbers.
I want to see your work. Show me your work, like they do in. No, I believe you. He's one of the brightest bulbs we have in the county, Mr. Hess is. So I appreciate you. I do have a question for you though, Sheriff. I mean, you and I are going to get together to try to come up with a better plan of trying to get you the people you need in public safety. And we said we were going to do it after today's date. Sometime we're going to get together, and I look forward to that. I'm wondering about litter, and I'm wondering about speeding fines. Now, I'm a business person, not law enforcement, but is there some way we could capture a little bit of that revenue and control a problem that we have by issuing fines, tickets? Again, business person, not law enforcement, but if I got hit for 28 years being in Citrus County, I remember coming up from Sarasota, driving down Croft, and watching somebody throw out a McDonald's bag. I honked the horn. I was like, yeah. Called 911, and I'm like, what do y'all do about this? This is ridiculous. They just throw their bags out of the car. Well, nothing we really can do. That was 28 years ago, and it's still a problem. Coming here, I saw somebody flip their cigarette out, and I'm like, I was thinking about the chief, you just told me we're getting dry, and I'm like, Black Diamond caught on fire a couple weeks ago from somebody flicking a cigarette out the door. And so is there some kind of revenue that we could start issuing tickets for litter, and would that help to stop the problem?
Well, Commissioner, the revenue is not the issue. We have several thousand miles of paved roadways in this county that are county or state maintained. for every mile of paved roadway that we have, if you looked at that, and everybody wants a deputy on every corner, of course. You know, the high traffic volume areas, if we work a selective enforcement operation, the manpower intensity would be pretty overwhelming. And is it important? Absolutely. But when we go from call to call to call, and a lot of these calls are involving life-saving measures, separating combative parties, you have to ask yourself, what is the overall priority? And I'll tell you something. When I started out in this profession a long time ago, I never would have imagined that I would be carrying around something like this to address a drug overdose. And I carry it on my person. I also have it on my SWAT vest. I have it on my other gun belt. I have one in my backpack. Every one of our deputy sheriffs carries around Narcan nasal spray. And we're dealing with an epidemic of overdoses here in our community. And we're also dealing with an epidemic of drug trafficking in our community, even today. And a few weeks back, we wrote a report, and I sent a letter to the Biden administration asking the Biden administration to join our Attorney General in declaring fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And that conversation's been out there for nearly 9 months now, and we're not seeing any traction on it. We see some, minor conversations about it, but nobody's really taking that problem very seriously. And we've seized enough fentanyl in our county alone in just the last couple of years to kill 900,000 people. Last year in our state, law enforcement seized enough fentanyl to kill the state's entire population of nearly 23 million. So in the priority of calls for service, we value human life at a much higher level than we do some of the other calls for service that are out there. And those calls are very time consuming and everything. So if we looked at the ratio of deputies that we have and the miles that we have of paved roadway, that means there's one deputy sheriff, one sworn law enforcement officer, including our great school resource deputies that we're talking about, for every 10 miles of roadway in this county. It's an impossible mathematical equation for us to solve within the resources that we've got. But if our traffic unit was able to be more robust, which in our proposal last year, we wanted to expand our traffic unit greatly. I would like to take our traffic unit and double its size overnight nearly to allow us to get after the speeding issues and also the distracted drivers, because still today, distracted drivers are the number one problem causing accidents out there, and speeding is contributing to that, just like some of the folks I pulled over yesterday when I was going northbound on 491, 20 miles an hour plus over on 491 over the posted speed limit. So there are some challenges out there, and does it irritate me? Yeah. I think the Chronicle captured a story that we posted on Facebook that somebody else shared, I think 2 years ago now, when somebody during the height, Chief Stevens is back there, during the height of our spring fire season, downtown Inverness, somebody throws a lit cigarette out, and every bit of grass in downtown Inverness was brown.
Yeah.
And I walked out, and I turned my lights on in the car. I walked out and knocked on the door, and I said, you've got two choices. You're either going to get a ticket or you're going to pick that cigarette butt up. Well, I wasn't thinking. And I said, that's precisely the problem. You're not thinking about the danger that you have imposed on the citizens and the businesses down here in our community. And that's your problem. So do it again, and I'm pretty sure that one of my deputies will give you a ticket. But we've got to see that.
I understand that.
And then we can take action on it.
And
we do.
And I appreciate it. And I do ask these questions, and part of them I do want the answer, but I have a lot of citizens come to me. Why isn't the sheriff giving out speeding tickets? Why isn't the sheriff giving litter tickets? So I just wanted you to go on record to be able to state there's a lot of roadways and you have to see it.
We did 30,000 plus traffic stops last year. 30,000. Over a third of those were written citations, another third were written warnings, and then the remaining number was verbal warnings to correct aberrant behavior that's, not consistent with Florida
Right.
statutes when it comes to operating a motor vehicle.
Right. Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. Okay. Does anybody else want to say something? Do you need a break? Joe, we haven't heard from you.
Thank you. I
Mr.
just want
Faraday.
to add to the vocational training. We have WTC, and we find it to be an exceptional campus, but we have 2 airports here that we could add aviation education to, and I think that would be wonderful to have some type of combined effort, and I know it's been talked about, but, as a scuba diver, I love the water, but I also love the air, and I would love to have some more education on that. As our county grows, like Mrs. Count said, we are looking at student population growing too, which is a major concern of ours. With that, in the future, we're going to have more schools. Floral City is undergoing a big transformation of their cafeteria to fit their population and improvements, but all of that does cost money. And this is where we are. With my background as a school resource officer and being in the mental health field before that, I definitely see a need of continued success and improvements in our mental health field in our schools. So everything that Mrs. Count said is definitely, I'm on board with that. But as our community, and most of you guys know who I am and how involved my family is in this community, whether it is Little League Baseball, chamber events, and different things along, we love this county. And we love the growth of this county, but we need to continue to look at these things that were stated today and give it serious consideration. I was up in Tallahassee with the school board, then I was up in Tallahassee with the chamber, and I hear the same things, and we've said the same things for many years, because I've sat in on different meetings. And we would love to see the progress go, Let's continue to move this county forward, but working together. And that's all I really have to say. And I think we have a great team here, so thank you.
And thank you. And I don't know if anybody's aware, but he was Julie and Catherine's SRO, and they still talk about him to this day.
Thank
24
you.
years old. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Holmes, and then were you before Mrs. Counts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. There's a lot of topics they hit. One thing that struck out to me was the strategic planning and the video, and having 3 main topics that we come out of here with. My first one has to do with the Suncoast Parkway coming in. It's stopped at 44. Back when I was on the council in the late 80s and 90s is when the topic first came out, coming around, crossing 495 and hitting 19. Pretty much what's going to happen, what's on the drawing board now. So far it's hit, with the exception of Cardinal, 4-lane highways. And when they plan on coming through, it's going to hit 495 after 486. That's 2-lane road. And I don't see any good outcome of them stopping there and we're then working their way to 19. I would like to see the county and the cities somehow come together to have a plan when it does come into 486 and 495 and the 19, have definite plans for the citizens of Crystal River to be able to get around and move. And whenever it's opened, there's a lot of collectors that are going to be moved. They're going to have traffic lights in order to get out because of the volume of traffic coming. So I'd just like to get with the state, see their plans, see their timelines, see what our strategic planning is. Because I just saw in the paper where you're looking at the entrances and the exits at the major arteries. I know back then the county changed the zoning so that it would be easy for the property owners to have 4 square miles of commercial property, if requested, at each interchange. So you've got Cardinal, 44, 486, 495, and US 19, which each one of those would be 4 square miles of commercial property. That's going to affect the neighborhoods in there. Granted, it's going to become, in some sections, a bedroom community where the people drive in, go home, and then they get back on the toll road and drive south. I myself, being a native, I've often thought about roads being built. I'd like to just see northbound lanes. Just whatever we've got southbound keep, but just make northbound lanes for emergencies so people can get out. Because the more you put in coming in, and there's statistics that we're growing and people are leaving other states and coming. I just hope they don't bring different ideas of how to do things and that we get it right now. So the toll road is my biggest issue right now for the citizens of Citrus County. Enough on that. The TDC, I'd like to see them take a 2 or 3 month hiatus on advertising. Just stop. Just don't do nothing. See what that changes. Look at the, what we have. Keep the money. Bank it. The big problem I see is education, and it deals with public safety. To me, it's parenting. The kids, the lack of, whether it's tech kids, poor kids, unruly kids. That's why somebody talked about the paddles used in pickleball. They were used in high school when I was there. I think corporal punishment needs to be talked about in the state legislature and in the federal government. So, talking about all these groups to do different things, get together, I think it revolves about parenting. Because if you can pop your kid's head, make him straighten up, you're not worried about a school teacher being shot. That's what it really boils down to. Discipline. And my grandkids will tell you. It's yes sir, no sir. That's my thoughts on that. And on the littering, I was thinking, I'm on Keep Citrus County Beautiful. That has not been talked about the other groups like Beautify Citrus. There are a lot of people that would like to get on board with that. Just coming here, I saw a contracting company, trucks, I think it's Park, but they were heading to the Parkway with mowers and 4-wheelers to pick up trash, to mow, beautify, things like that. Citrus County probably needs to look at a team like that or contract out in different sections of the county. Mowers, 4-wheelers, and would possibly need to look at education in the correction department to give them a leg up on how to pick up trash, how to work a shovel, having labor come out of corrections, the old chain gang. And that's one aspect. It's been tried in many counties, but it's been abused. But I think if done right, we could use that, and that would give the people a leg up on some kind of a job when they get out. So litter, yes, I've seen people throw it out, but there are a lot of people and groups that we can get together for the litter. And the county can spearhead that with the trash haulers and everything like that. There's several other things, but the main three items is, like I say, strategic planning. Let's look at exactly what's going to happen with Parkway coming in. Look at the land use. Make smart. Because back then I was against having an interchange at 495. And I called heck, mainly from the property owners, but it says you need to bring people into the city. It's when we had the mall and it was slowly dying off. You have those commercial zones and it sucks the life out of other areas because that's the major thoroughfare. I'm dead set against an interchange at 495, and I would like to have that discussion bounced around Tallahassee and with property owners to see what's going on. If anything, an entrance to get on it, to go, not an exit. Just different aspects. I'm looking out for, I would say, constituents that I've known practically all my life. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I should talk into the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Counts is next, and then Commissioner Kennard, but I just want to say that in terms of raising our children better, that goes back to, I believe what the chair said, is that what she wanted to come out of this was something, the whole point of having all of us together is to pick things that affect all of our roles and duties in the county. And to my mind, again, wrapping around what the school district does, and I'm teeing this up for you, Sandy, that wrapping around the school district and helping the before and after portions. And that actually goes back to litter. You know, if you ain't raised right, you're throwing your McDonald's bag out the window and you're throwing your cigarette butts out the window. Bingo. So anything we can do, and this is stuff that this will come to fruition when we're all in our rocking chairs, right? But it's legacy stuff. Anyway, Ms. Counts.
Okay, well, I thought, Mr. Holmes, that was a beautiful summary of what we've done today. But I remembered one thing after we talked about our children and our programs, and that's, I think, what's going to take is the school, along with the community, dividing some kind of programs, especially for parents. But Crystal River High School has had, for a county-wide teen pregnancy program for years. We provide 2 rooms, one for the babies with cribs, and the parents go to school all day, and we take care of their children. And so that has made it possible for some of our teen parents to graduate from high school at least, and move on hopefully. But I think we still need to do a little bit more. Our kids without parents are almost, and I'm going to be a little political here, I'm sorry, but this parent thing that you're hearing with a lot of the politicians that are running now is almost traumatizing some of our kids in the classroom that have no parents. They're being raised by grandparents. I think one of the saddest days at Crystal River High School was when a grandparent brought his grandson in and said, I can't take care of him anymore, and I'm putting him in foster care. And so our children need all of our help, and we have to have all of our community. I passed a sign coming back from Tallahassee, and I think it was a HCA medical facility because it kind of looked like that. And you know what they had on their billboard? We love our community. How many of us have put out signs over all the years of COVID that we love our healthcare workers, we love our first responders, and things like that? But here was a hospital facility saying, we love our community. And so it just resonated with me because I think that's the way our community feels. But I think if we can develop programs, as you suggest, between the kids and the parents, if they do have them. We also have to take a look at these kids that are just raising themselves, and some of them are doing a really good job of it. I suggest, believe it or not, the military to all of them. I suggest we have social services. Chief Stevens, I've suggested kids join your ranks. Join your ranks. I've had some of my kids. Some of my kids are deputies. Some of them are teachers. They don't leave our community, but we got to give them a little. They got to get a rudder on their little behind, and sometimes they're just floating out there with no steerage. But if we can develop those programs, and again with the parents, I think that would be a good solution. And the schools, I want you to know, we have our SRO program, which is 30-something years old now. I know Doug Dodd Sherry Cernich was SRO number 1, and Doug Dodd was SRO number 3, and Joe doesn't even know what SRO number he was. But
I was in the top 10.
He's in the top 10. But they're absolutely fantastic, and they do a great job in our school, especially with the young ones at the elementary schools, on trying to guide those kids. I think I said many years, Casey Phillips is over at Rock Crusher, and that's one of my SAC schools. He's a tall guy. And I said he goes home every day with slobber all over his kneecaps from getting hugs from all those little babies. So that's an important program for our little kids, especially the pre-K kids and kindergarten kids, to see that resource officer in the school and know that they can trust them and they can talk to them. And that's part of keeping our schools safe. We still have a few front doors to work and a little bit more fencing to go, but we have re-outfitted, and a lot of it's been federal money and state money, but we've re-outfitted the fronts of all of our schools. We were in Tallahassee, and there's a bill up there that says the schools have got to put maps in the hands of the first responders, marking their entrances and exits. I said, are you kidding me in today's time? That do skills, we have not only maps, but we joined with the Centrex group, where all of our school personnel have a little credit card push button, and we've mapped with a dispatcher at the sheriff's office, and if a teacher or a staff personnel is in that room way over there, pushes that button, it shows up on your map right away, and they know exactly where to go, and they know how to get in and out of our schools. Is it a deterrent? Yes. Hopefully it will stop anybody and everybody thinking they can come into our schools and cause havoc. So we're so far ahead of the ball game here in Citrus County in so many ways, but we still got a little bit more to do. On the litter thing, and I agree with you on the $4.95 thing, I'll help you. But on the litter thing, I've always thought, remember the dump trucks when they would just run up and down our street 20 years ago and sand was flying all over the place, and then they said, well, we got to cover up your dirt. So they invented something on every pickup truck, and that little old tarp or whatever you want to call it goes up, covers up all their dirt. But then I look, and in all due deference to our chairman, it's not people throwing stuff out the window. I've seen McDonald's bags flying out the back of those pickup trucks every time I'm on the highway. And believe it or not, I came down, God, I almost said Chicken Farm Road, Grover, Cleveland. And that's how long I've been here. But there's a twin blanket sitting right there under the overpass with something else laying beside it. And then I go down Homestead Trail, and there's a bag of garbage that's still there, and it's been there over a week. But it's a white kitchen bag of garbage. So these are people that are traveling either in pickup trucks or trailers, hopefully trying to go to the landfill to dispose of their garbage legally. But why aren't we forcing them to cover it? And if we wanted to pay for the four-wheelers and pick up trash, if you come to the landfill and your load is not covered, then tack $3 or $4, $5 onto their dumping fee and use it to pay for your four-wheelers and people to pick up the trash on the road. Because if we force them to cover to secure their loads, there's bungee cords at every store in town, I think, and they're just letting their load just fly off, and they don't know. I remember stopping one time, and I saw this car full of people and a load, and there was a mattress back in the middle of Grover Cleveland, down by Toys R Us. I said, rolled the window down and I said, did you all have a mattress on the back of that trailer? And they said yes. I said, well, it's back there about 2 miles. And they turned around. So I think if we could just get people to cover up, the dump trucks did it years ago. We could make them cover it up. If
Ms.
they don't have
Counts.
a tarp, go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennard.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess it's changing directions a little bit. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of conversation going on about improving our sheriff's office, adding patrols, adding new officers. I want to talk about opportunities, though, to build more bridges with the two cities. It certainly looks very promising that there should be some funding coming forward for the Inverness Airport Industrial Park. I had a great meeting with our Economic Development Director yesterday, and one of the issues that is going to need to be addressed there is water supply for fire suppression. That will be a concern for would-be occupants of the industrial park. We had some conversation about that a number of years ago, and there were some pretty strong headwinds to participating with the county. So I hope that when Frank or Steve reaches out to the city, that we can work to expedite that. A successful Inverness Airport Industrial Park would be good for both the county and the city, I believe. With the city of Crystal River, I'm going to go back in time just a little bit here. That I had brought forward through the TDC the idea of funding a connector trail from Three Sister Springs Trail over to Lagrone Park, and there were two parts to that trail. Ultimately, to get Three Sister Springs connected to 486, the first part was to get to Lagrone Park. That at the time was estimated to be about $600,000, and then the second part of it from Lagrone Park to 486 was about a $6 million lift that DOT wanted to see us do our part first, was the message that we got. It looked that project to Lagrone Park was on track, was going to be funded, and we were ready to take the next steps, and it got sidetracked. Much to my chagrin, but we started down the path of trying to get Fort Island Trail done. We had that funding was moved over to Fort Island Trail, and last year we had significant funding, made it through the legislature, and then unfortunately the governor vetoed it. I would like for us to look at going back to that and getting Three Sister Springs trail connected to Lagrone Park. I'm sure the price is no longer $600,000, but there needs to be a component of that the city would be involved with. Certainly the county and TDC had previously committed money to that. Hopefully they would do that again. So I think those are some opportunities. I'm not sure what opportunities are there between the county and the school board. But there's certainly going to be an awful lot of relationship building and opportunities that exist between the county and the sheriff's office and the county and the two cities. I'm sure there are with the school board as well, but I just wanted to talk about some things before we get too late in our morning here about what are next steps, what are the goals, what do we want to, what are some things that we can maybe look forward to accomplishing. There's been some discussion about a cooperative effort on the Fort Island Trail boat ramp, the midway ramp there. I would like to see that get some legs and get moving. We need additional ramps in the county. We need additional access in the county, and hopefully we will have the support on my board and on the city council to get this thing moving. So those are some opportunities I see for cooperation between all the elected officials.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate that segue because what I wanted to do at 11, somebody got there? What? Oh, sorry. Okay.
11:01.
At 11 o'clock, I'll let you speak next. I wanted to bring together what I wrote. I have public safety. I wanted 3 goals. TDC funds and how we could apply those a little differently. Economic development, bringing up transportation and roads. I know, Mr. Holmes, that you've been in office. How long did you say when you introduced yourself? How long have you been in office?
About 21 years.
21 years. So it's a fairly new board. A retread, recycle.
Ouch.
She's we're repurposing. How about repurposing? And then we have Commissioner Kennard. He's been there. He's our old soul on the board.
How about
Senior
recall?
Commissioner.
Okay, senior.
Recall to active duty. I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. She's back to active duty, but two and a half years doing this, 2.5 years, several months. I was just curious. Have you gone to FDOT and spoken about 495? Has your board?
That has sailed. I mean,
I know, but have you gone and?
We addressed issues that we had and
Yeah.
everything, and they've heard. I don't think we have formally, as a council, made a position, and
Okay.
I think that might be something that we do in conjunction with the county. We start talking, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel or anything like that, but we just want to make our issues known in the constituents. I'm not concerned about the people that are moving into Florida. I'm more concerned about the people that are here now.
That train has left the station.
Can I just
Yes.
interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
I think I keep hearing bits and pieces of this. I think the city council needs to take a position, because we can take action through your representative on the MPO, as well as with council and the county commission, as to whether or not the city council wants that interchange. If you want it, then let's advocate for it and make it the best interchange you can have. If you don't want it, then I think the MPO, the county, and the city all need to rally together and address that with DOT.
Yeah, and thank you. I was actually going to say that exact thing, but I was going to take it a step farther and say, once you do get that position, please bring it to Commissioner Kennard, and he will take it to the MPO. Also, the airport. I had a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor with 2 aviation female-owned businesses, and we talked at great length about how we can get a piece of Space Florida manufacturing, what we need to do to, really elevate that airport. As you know, that's been my #1 goal since I got into office. So that's exciting thing. So I'm going to let Commissioner Bass speak, and then I would like to circle and spend the rest of our time talking about the 3 or 4 goals that we see and how we can get, how can we address them. Thank you.
well, good, because I'm glad. I feel like we're way off track. I think the purpose and the intent of us to be here today is to really come out of this where we can collaborate together, find some commonalities that we can take back to the public and champion as a elected body that represents all of our constituents. To address the transportation component of that, I understand maybe the frustration of it, but frankly, transportation is a long-range plan. There's a lot of planning that goes into it and the expense of it. And when you talk about that Suncoast Parkway, there is, in your local community, there is a discount for using that. If you are going to try to move people in your county or in your city from Crystal River down to Homosassa, they can get on and use that turnpike. If you're and that's not on our dime. We're not having to pay for roads. If we have to continue to build interior roads, those are on our dime. And we want people to use that Suncoast Parkway that's trying to traverse across this county. We don't want to keep building roads that we have to pay for because we can't. We just simply don't. We have to have a match to build these collector roads, and we have to fund them and keep them paved after that. Right now, we need $20 million a year just to keep up with the paving. That is not even adding capacity, and we need to add capacity. 491 is an evacuation route. It needs 4-lane. It is failing. It is turning into an F. So we have got to be really clear and very serious about how we're going to traverse people around in this county and how we're going to pay for this, because it is not cheap. That's one. Number two, economic development. We are transporting 21,000 people per day out of this county to jobs somewhere else. We need to create jobs. If we're going to be on the page of promoting something in this county, we've got to get very serious about this budget and talk as a team to support it. We've got to get into the weeds about things that are going to have a return on investment. This is just not acceptable. This is not acceptable. We're going to have public safety at every level, whether it's the police on the road, whether it's EMS, whether it's the sheriff's department. We have got to plan for the future. I've asked for an origin destination study on who's getting on and off at that Suncoast Parkway, because the reality of it is, I don't care if it ends at 44 or 19. If we have an emergency evacuation situation, they are going to end up in this county somewhere at some point in some time. 491 is not capacity. Highway 19 is an emergency evacuation route, a high coastal flood area. It will probably get closed down. Somebody's going to get on their phone, they're going to look at a map, and they're going to see there's limited services on 19. They're not going to go 19. They're going to stay in our community. We already know that we have limited capacity for hotels and shelter. So when we've got to get into the conversation about the big ticket items. Transportation, water quality. If we're going to build, we've got to have septic to sewer programs. We can't keep permitting and putting people on septic and then say we're going to have to put you on centralized sewer. I mean, they come to us and they complain now of the cost of it. So I want us to come together as a community. Let's talk about the things that we can really affect in a budget, and I think that's why we're here today. I think we're here to talk about how we're going to move our county forward, how we're going to budget for it, and how we're going to have that conversation with our public and be unified, because we're growing. We're not sending anybody away. So that's the conversation that I want to have, and I think that's the purpose and the reason that we're here today. And we have got to have some real true outcomes when we walk out of this meeting today, that where are we going, what's the roadmap, and what are we willing to support as a unified group that is going to cost the taxpayers. The sheriff said it. It's not cheap. But do we want this county to be cheap? No. Or do we want a good plan? It's the end of my rant.
Do you want to throw down your mic?
Kinda.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. You alluded at your first thing about the sales tax. Mm-hmm. I think the county needs to look at that, and I think the newspaper needs to really look at that, because it's all in the advertising to see what it's actually going to cost the Citrus County resident. And I think try and push that forward. The only way I would push that forward is if you quoted 22 million, it's dedicated in slots, that it cannot be touched by.
Well, that is part of the
re-election.
rules. That is a referendum for sales tax. It has to be voted on by the residents. You have to set it. It has to have a sunset date to it, and it has to have a specific use. So all of that would have to be laid out in order to even put it on a ballot and have it voted on.
Well,
And we'd have to decide what that would look like.
right. And I think that discussion probably needs to be at the next county commission meeting.
Well, we can't talk about it. That's the problem. The legislature has put a fix on us, so that would have to be
We
could
need a
t-
pack.
Yeah, you have to have some other resource that can go out and promote it and talk about it. We can't.
Mr. Holmes, I've said this, they know this, you probably don't know this, but for over 30 years, I've collected sales tax across the state of Florida. I pay 3 separate sales tax every month. I dream about sales tax in my dreams at night. I know, well, dear God, it's almost the 20th, you know? I know it backwards and forward. First month in office, I brought it up, not knowing at the time, being naive, being new to the board, that I couldn't push that. I could educate, but I couldn't, advocate for it. I literally was laughed at by 2 of my commissioners and said, oh, ask Commissioner Kennard how that worked. Laughed at, humiliated. I brought it up again. It happened again. I stopped talking about it. So to hear Commissioner Bays talk about it, we're the only county in the state of Florida that does not collect a half cent, 1 penny, up to 2.5 cents we could collect. The only county in the state of Florida that doesn't utilize discretionary sales tax. Either we are the smartest county in the state of Florida or we're missing the boat. So if you hear that and you like that idea, let's try to find somebody that will, outside of us elected officials, that would do it, because that would answer a lot of our public safety concerns. It would answer a lot of our road concerns. So that, I think, should be something that the newspapers write about, educate the consumers about. I did my 87-year-old mom's, I did a year of her receipts. It would have raised her taxes $12. It would have brought in over $16 million that year, and this was before COVID. It would have brought in over $16 million, I believe, from tourism. We're giving our county away. We are responsible for the water. We're responsible for the road. Again, my district doesn't have tourism, but everything you all are dealing with, we're giving it to them for free. A lot of that you have coming in are people coming in for the day, putting their boat, until Commissioner Kennard put boat ramp fees on there, you were even giving them that away. They pack their lunches. They're not visiting, a lot of them aren't visiting your restaurants. And then they're dumping stuff in the water, polluting. So this is a tough conversation, and it has to be addressed. And I hope that Inverness hears it and advocates for it. Educates for it. And I hope Crystal River does the same. And we have a board that's pushing it. That really, to hear her say that is like a gift from God. I know Commissioner Kennard got beat up for it, and I'm thankful for him. I'm not sure about Commissioner Finnegan. Is she still here? Yes, she's still here. Okay, and I know Commissioner Davis would be willing to educate. That could solve a lot of our problems. It really could. So I tried to do it right out at 2020 because we could get it on the 2024 ballot, but that didn't work out. So I'm going to hand that baton over to you and have you, educate for it. I would like to know if this will lead into the fact of how do we finance, how do we pay for our public safety? And how do we as a group come together? I love the idea if we could talk to the state and Commissioner Davis about TDC chipping in a little bit on public safety. But I know there are constraints. Mm-hmm. So if it's all right with y'all, if we could talk about TDC funds, that's one of the goals. If we could find out what can we really use that money for? Because it does sound like y'all have some real problems with tourism. So, Commissioner Davis, can you tell us a little bit?
Oh, about the limitations?
Yes.
I believe some of those limitations have been changing a little bit, but typically, we absolutely can do capital, and I believe we can do law enforcement, I think.
Public safety.
Public safety, yes. So
Is it what penny can you use? Because you have 5 pennies, right?
yes.
Do you
We
know?
have five, one is capital.
Okay.
I believe we do, and I'm going to look for John to nod if I get this right. 3 is for general marketing, 1 is for special projects, 1 is for, which is sometimes split between the 2, and then 1 is capital.
And so public safety follows under what penny?
Penny number 4.
Capital, special project.
John Pritchard with Tourist Development. Currently the statute only is very narrow on what law enforcement can be used for. It's there's constraints to the counties, so it's mostly in the Panhandle that can use it. It's not statewide at this point. So that's as I remember it. I obviously will ask legal to help me with that, but it's pretty narrow in terms of prospects. So the real math is the first 2%, first 2 pennies are open for capital. That they have the widest doorway for what the statute says. After that, it becomes more constrained in terms of professional sports stadiums, convention centers, and things like that. So currently, the split is there's 4% funds the tourist development operations. 1% is set aside for capital projects.
And Chairman, if I might, I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that. It collects $3 million a year, so it's not like it's a major fix. I mean, I think that's something we can talk about, but I think to spend a lot of time on it at this time is...
I disagree with you because that was the first complaint about how do we handle that, and I think that is definitely something that has to be discussed, and that we could take 20 minutes talking about it, or 15 minutes talking about it, because I am curious what you could use from tourism to help fund, because guess what? The counties, help and pay for that marine patrol. People in District 3 are helping pay for that marine patrol. So, I mean...
If I may, Chair.
Yes.
And we need to go to the sheriff, but I just want to, so I'll narrow my comments specifically to sales tax, because I think that is one area where we could really rally behind, as you've said, about educating, not advocating. We also need to really put the word out to business people in the community that have the funds to join in on a PAC and start, and separately, not in our official roles, but in our roles as being well known in the community, try to get people involved in that PAC. Secondly, we need to put our feelers out to decide what is considered sexy enough to pass for sales tax, okay? Because that's what I keep hearing. Rose is not sexy enough. I think the sheriff might be. Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
Public safety.
But public safety, in general, is something that people who are seniors and very worried about things might really be able to rally behind. But I'm not sure that's the answer, but figure out something that we can do. And finally, and then I'll be done, is to say that the education portion, what I tell people to try to explain this, is I say, hey, pick something that you have to pay for. It's not anything that's not fun like a vacation. You have to pay for a new roof. You have to pay for a new whatever. How'd you like to get 25 to 28% off the best deal you can make? Just right off the top. And they go, well, yeah, I'd love that. I go, well, that's what the sales tax is. Because 25 to 28% of the sales tax generated by 1 cent is paid for by people who don't live here.
Okay.
And I'm done.
Thank you so much. Sheriff, she jumped ahead of you, and I'm so
No,
sorry about
that's-
that.
that's fine,
She did not
Chair.
put her card up.
She did call sexy, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Sheriff, go ahead, please.
I recall a conversation with my fellow sheriff to the north, Sheriff Billy Woods, about the improvements to public safety in Marion County following their 1% sales tax initiative. And it says a 1% sales tax option to fund public safety equipment needs for law enforcement, fire rescue, and EMS, as well as transportation capital and road rehabilitation projects for the county and municipalities. And it says on this one website that I pull this data from, 30% is estimated to be paid for by visitors to Marion County.
Even higher.
Fire rescue projects include new engines, ambulances, a fire station, and replacement equipment. Sheriff's Office projects include new patrol vehicles, a helicopter, new evidence building, which is state of the art, by the way, and Sheriff's Office equipment to replace failing equipment that they've had out there. Road projects include multiple road rehabilitations and capacity projects. Public safety includes radio replacements, a tower site, which we've spent a lot of money on towers the last few years, as you well know, and a backup communications center. The power of the penny began collecting revenue in January 2016 after voters approved the referendum the year earlier. 2016-2017 fiscal year, it was only $4 million. 2017-2018, $20.9 million. And I'll just fast forward up to the year of 2020-21, which was the pandemic, where there were a lot of people spending money that they might not have otherwise been spending, $70.6 million. And the most recent year is $62.6 million in funding to help out there. And what the results are that 70% of the Marion County voters elected to renew that 1 cent public safety and infrastructure sales tax until 2024. The last time they voted on it, they renewed it. 70% of their voters voted to renew it. And as we've talked about the escalation of costs for just the mission essential equipment that we have for human capital, in 1 year we saw a 40% increase by Ford Motor Company on the price of a patrol car. And now those vehicles are nearly, because we're in year 3 of the pandemic and supply chain issues, they're nearly 100% more per unit to purchase the vehicle and field the new vehicle for our deputies out there than what they were 6 years ago. So those expenses are not going to continue to be held back. The way the free market's running right now, and competition for the limited amount of resources we're getting from the suppliers has driven their prices even higher. So we've got to have some help, and there's a great deal of relief that can come to us. And I know Chief Stevens, every time he buys a new piece of apparatus to support fire safety, those costs are out of control and continue to escalate. If he can get access in the queue of the manufacturing process to get his hands on that piece of equipment.
Not to mention EMS and the ambulance.
Exactly. So the challenge is there, and it's a big challenge, but this is one potential solution to help us out with some of these demands that we've got out there. And we've got so many unmet demands right now, it's not funny.
So, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support for that. So, does anybody disagree? Public safety is one of our goals as a county, cities. Economic development and transportation. So who wants to chime in on these 3 goals and how we get closer to achieving these goals?
Can I chime in on economic development?
Yes, sir.
You know, we've got an area in Citrus County, the northwest quadrant, where there's literally open land. And it seems to me that that could be presented across the country by a business czar that will go after those people who have industry clean that could bring it to the northwest quadrant. And we could offer tax relief, various inducements for them to come. That just sits fallow. And it just seems to me that it would be an excellent area to create an industrial park. You're on 19, and I think perhaps when the expressway is done, you'll be able to shoot down and get over to any area you want to get to. So I think somebody needs to go after that business. I can recall when our former governor was in office, he went after industry in various states and was very successful at doing it. But we can't let the high tech, say computer chips and so on, go to different states totally, or go to the East Coast totally. We needed to get some of that development over here. Somebody with that knowledge needs to be hired to go ahead and go after that business. So that's one of the ways that, of course, we can get people hired and set that up. And the other thing I want to talk about is that in New Hampshire, they don't have a sales tax, but they've got a bed and belly tax. And I'm thinking that might be around 13% now. So that gets tacked on to restaurants and hotels, motels, etc. Is that something that you all have looked at all?
Yes.
Thought so. Okay. I'm good with that. So the other way that, and this is sort of a benign way, is to increase the cultural aspects of our county. Vis-a-vis the cities developing more of a cultural attitude. One of the things that I've been striving for is to get more bronze statues, art type things that will inure to those people that love to see that. So we're working on that in the city of Inverness. I think if the county could develop strategic points where people could come in, have beautifully landscaped areas with, some type of art, I think it would inure to folks wanting to come here. Hilton Head Island at one time was just a vacant place that nothing was happening. They went in and they made it a cultural icon. So all the retired military officers and others that retired from business, they moved in. They created what they call plantations, which were like Black Diamond. You need something like that to attract that type of quality individual to be able to elevate, the housing areas and the commercial areas and who you're trying to attract. And you can see that in various areas like Lido Key, for instance. And it sounds like I'm going way out of line here when I'm looking at that. But the reality is who imagined 30 years ago where this county would be and what we attract? And, it's limitless for what we can continue to do, but we've got to put our dollars in the right place.
Thank you. And I really, really appreciate that because I was born and raised in Sarasota, at the Oslo Theater, the Van Wezel, Selby Gardens, Ringley Museum. We were a small town growing up. And it seems that the campaign has been for a long time. Our campaign for Citrus County was attracting which thankfully we have them, a blue collar worker. We're cheap. You can live here. You won't be, we're low taxes. And we have done a fine job of that. Commissioner Bays brought up, putting our eggs all in one basket. For a long time, it was Duke Energy. And what happened to us then? It's now the Manatee. So I would love to see something like that in the strategic plan.
I may say that until Duke at one time really went down and sending money over to the county, we operated, the construction business went away. So what that three-legged stool had no foundation anymore because construction dried up. So there went money away. Duke Energy cut way back on their tax bill. That was another leg. So you had the hospital, and the hospitals were the last leg. And that all has to be rebuilt again. And I think, again, bringing and attracting industry into the Northwest Quadrant would be an ideal place to develop a large area for having a lot of people that could build. You could build the less expensive housing, apartment complexes and so on. for those that are underserved. And then you could bring those factories in where they could work. And they could bicycle to work, they could walk to work, whatever. But the case is that we are not utilizing that area like we should be. And many of you know the barge canal was there. Somebody had talked at one time about bringing barges in to offload and to reload. I'm not sure that that was valid or feasible, but there's got to be some way that we can utilize that property and make our county more viable for people to come here. And I think those are some of the ideas that we need to look at. I've been talking about getting the business czar here. They did it in Ocala, and they had a young lady there in Ocala that went after that business. And look how Ocala has grown in the last 20 years. And I talked to former county commissioners about getting that type of thing. It never materialized. And so I think that's a good way to go, to set that up, to draw businesses in, big factories, etc. So.
Well, I do want to tell you that you had 5 commissioners doing that very thing.
Excellent.
And 3 commissioners doing it the week before. And we touched on every one of those subjects. Commissioner Finnegan brought up targeting the right visitor, targeting the right industry. Exactly what you said. I know she worked hard on it at meetings. Like I said, I met with the Lieutenant Governor doing that very thing. I know that Rebecca Bays was there. And then last week, all 5 of us were in different meetings. So we have that opportunity. And I think all of us said to Tallahassee, hey, we have the land. Mm-hmm. We have the dirt. We're not making any more dirt.
And the airspace.
And the airspace. You're right. You brought
That's
up
right.
the airspace. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Bays and then Commissioner Davis.
Okay.
And you see the 4 topics we have.
Well, on the economic development, of course, I've always been a proponent of the barge canal area, the northwest quadrant. I think it's limited in certain respects to what we can do. I'd be cautious on some of it, but I do believe there's been some conversations as of recent with some folks that, as you know, we're very short on certain types of rock for road building materials in the state, and there's an opportunity to possibly bring some of that in from Puerto Rico. That people have had conversations about wanting to bring that here. So we're kind of, that's being tossed around, looking at it. The other issue is racetrack. All their fuel comes into the Tampa port. And those trucks get on the road and drive from Tampa and go north and then deadhead back. And so when you think about the wear and the tear on the highways and the travel time, that's been another opportunity that we've kind of looked at in the past to see if they could bring fuel. That could be a loading site for fuel, possibly for the transport in the northern area of the state. I don't know if that'll ever pan out, but it's at least an opportunity to start to look at some things there. I personally believe the number one, and the reason I say I'm cautious in it is because we don't have central water and sewer up there. We're limited to what we can do, and that's a heavy cost to get there. But I believe firmly that our number one opportunity is the Inverness Airport. And, you know, we were granted a $5 million award, I believe it was last year or the year before. We've got another $9 million appropriation in this year. We've had grants in last year that were turned down, but they told us to come back, and one of them goes back to you. It's a grant, $5 million grant for WTC, and what we want to do with that is create an A&P school for airplane mechanic school. And we have a business that wants to relocate there right now from Alabama. They would come in, it is a helicopter business. They do vegetation removal for all over the country for power lines and railroads. They do it with saws. They manufacture their own saws. They have their own mechanics. Mechanics for them make $180,000 a year and work 6 months out of the year. I mean, this is a very highly sought after career choice. And so even if, talk about changing generational poverty, this is an opportunity to create a school, employ people here, and change the trajectory of the outcomes of some of our families here. So those are the types of things that I think I would like to see us all work in tandem. Talk to your legislators, get the word out, tell them, we contact the governor's office, contact DEO. We need these grants. We need this $9 million appropriation. That's not the end of it. That's just the beginning of it. I mean, we have 80 acres sitting there, but in theory, we have almost 400 acres that we can actually implement and hit the ground running and have an impact. I mean, it's not something that we're dreaming about that's 5-10 years off. If we can get this money this year in this legislature, we can theoretically be on the ground and working in a year or two. And that is a fast implementation for economic development, and I'm excited about it. I hope everybody in this room will send their letters, call. It is an opportunity to really change the dynamics. We cannot continue to export our people out of this county to go to work someplace else. And when we talk about all this growth, and I keep saying this, but I want you to think about it. In 20 to 21, our percentage points went up 6%, 6 percentage points from those year to year on residential tax burden. And our commercial burden is decreasing, and the inversion rate of that is costing us money, because every time we build a house, for every dollar we collect in taxes, it costs us $1.50 to deliver services. So we need to change the ratio. We need more business in this community. We have got to get serious about the economic development and start to provide these jobs, so that, because we're going to we're going to have to collect 50% more of what we're collecting to provide the services to our citizens just having a home here. So we've got to change that.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes, ma'am. Just to finish Commissioner Bay's, the rest of the math on that is it's $1.50 for residents. It's to service them, it's 70 cents versus $1 collected for industry, and it's 30 cents for ag. So big difference in what the kind of costs that we're looking at. So we do have, not only do we have a new county administrator that is deeply steeped in aerospace and especially space up in Camden County, Georgia, but he's also hired Frank Calashone as our new Economic Development Director, prior to both of them coming on board at Juiced for Citrus a year ago, which was a site selector visit that we put together. We actually showcased a big property up by Duke.
Which, by the way, is, I think, the reason why Crystal River Mall sold.
Really?
That guy,
Oh,
that
good.
one site selector told me he contacted his friend who was not in that group.
Didn't know that.
And
That's awesome.
Yes, I keep forgetting
Good
to
job.
tell you that.
Yeah. So we did, I'm also a believer in the port. I think that whole section of the county will develop. I don't think it's what's next, but I think it's what's next after next. Also because of the water and sewer issue, but aquaculture has been mentioned for there, would be a very good industry to look at, because we are the nature coast. We are a statewide leader in environmental restoration, and we can move into that direction. That's something that fits with environment in the county. Also has been mentioned as part of aerospace is capsule recovery in the Gulf, because we have one of 13 ports in the state of Florida. My background, a large portion of my background is in aviation, and I will say that from corporate aviation mostly and a little bit in aerospace, that this county is really, really attractive to that industry. We just need to get it started. And that $9 million appropriation for Inverness would be the big kickoff for that, absolutely. And then lastly, what I would say is that when I envision the future in citrus is we develop various areas that have a sense of place, that are more cluster development. It's Floral City, it's Inverness, it's Homosassa. It's also Lecanto and Beverly Hills. And of
Praise the
course, Crystal
Lord.
River. Yep. And we have those areas that are more infill, more dense type, but sense of place and walkable and things like that. But that is interspersed with, we've got to protect our ag lands. Knowing where our food comes from is very important.
You're getting off of
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay. And, but if you intersperse the clusters with ag, industry, and then all of our protected lands, I love the idea of culture and, what Sarasota did. What I would like to see, because we have 50% of our land and water cannot be developed, we're going to be a very nature, more down to earth kind of version of that with the culture. So.
Thank you. Sheriff.
Thanks, Chair. I want to echo the sentiments that I've heard about economic development. We really need to focus on that for the future of our community. 36% of our citizens in this county are over the age of 65. And if we don't have the right type of things to support them, we are letting them down. So I think that's very important for the progress of our community. And as our great school board member, Ms. Counts, mentioned, focusing on the education. We cannot develop our economy if we don't have educated future employees that have access to quality education or training, as Mr. Faraday mentioned, talking about some of the technical skills and rolling that back down to high school. Those of us on this end of the board will remember when we were in high school, they did have welding classes. They did have automotive shop mechanics classes. They had home economics. They had shop classes. Some of the business owners that are missing from this room today have groused repeatedly about the lack of applicants to come in and apply for their vacant positions. And in turn, they can't service their customers because they don't have employees to do those services, whether it's working on construction sites to build new homes or to remodel homes and make them wheelchair accessible or things like that, or all the new construction, which last year, again, we've had another great year in new housing starts. 1,971 new housing starts. Permits were pulled just last year alone. Phenomenal growth, but we don't have enough folks to help build those homes that are out there. And that's why we see some of these construction projects, instead of taking a few months, taking over a year or two to get across the finish line. And we know what that does to the homeowners that want to be part of our community here. And then also taking a look at the folks that we have unemployed, and further exacerbating that problem is that there's 20+ thousand, as Commissioner Bay has mentioned, folks that could be working in our county, but they're going somewhere else. They're taking their skills and their time someplace else and contributing to economies in other parts of our state instead of right here at home, which would be a huge boon to our local economy and also to our local workforce that sorely needs access to some of those employees to help them out. We do have a crisis in our community among the workforce. So I think as we think about economic development, we really do need to also look at education through our public school system, the private schools that are out there, and certainly our Withlacoochee Technical College and our College of Central Florida campus that's here, that will be grooming those future folks to help take care of public safety needs, of economic development needs across the full spectrum of the private sector, and then all those other public sector things that are out there, future teachers that we are so dependent upon to prepare the future generations of Citrus Countyans to serve the needs of our citizens and to serve the needs of those entrepreneurs out there like yourselves. An entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur sitting up here on our Board of County Commissioners. All of you need access to employees as your businesses continue to grow. So I think that they complement one another very nicely as we look at the broader goal of economic development and future preparations for the things that are already here, as well as the things that are over the horizon as Florida continues to grow at a very rapid pace. And we look at our own growth rate of 2.7% over the past year. That's not slowing down, on top of a population that we know was undercounted when the census took place back in 2020. We were undercounted by 3.4% that we found out about, I think, in the spring of last year when the Census Bureau says, yeah, we kind of undercounted Florida. So we've got a full plate of opportunities for us to get out there and get after. And I think if we focus on the complementary aspects of public safety, economic development, transportation, and infrastructure, we're on the right path. We're on the right path to serve the needs of our community and prepare this community for all of those phenomenal opportunities that are easily within our grasp as Florida continues to grow and Florida continues to be a real attractant for time, talent, and the treasure from other places around the country that are looking for Florida as the beacon of hope for the future of the United States of America.
Sheriff, do you have any suggestions of how this group how we can move forward with public safety and economic development and transportation? Do you have a suggestion to put it all in a nice little box with a bow of how we can move forward together?
I think my great question, and I think my offering to everybody that's sitting here today is we need to have discussions like this more frequently.
Yes.
I've been in office for over 6 years, and this is, other than us talking about where we think our community is going to grow, when we took a look at Citrus 2030, this is our first time to sit down and have a very frank discussion about some of the things that are out there. And we're all hearing from our citizens, whether you're on the city council, whether you're on the county commission, or you're the sheriff, or one of the other constitutional officers. We're all hearing about our citizens and their expectations for our community. So having these discussions maybe quarterly, maybe semi-annual. I don't know what the right number is with all the competing things that are out there for our time and the focus that we've got out here. But I think this is the right way to get this off of the ground and to have further discussions as we get new data, as things manifest themselves and projects come online, and perhaps updating. Okay, we have this meeting today, and we talk about our goals for these items that we've agendaed and say these are the goals we want to work forward together on to prepare our community. Let's stick the dipstick back in there in 6 months and measure, okay, where are we at based on these goals? We look at our strategic plan for the Citrus County Sheriff's Office on a quarterly basis. And we assess ourselves, where are we going? What have we accomplished? What areas do we need to focus upon? And when we see trends emerging that are helping us move the needle in the right direction, well, we continue that, but then we look for where are the trends not going in the right direction, right, so that we can maybe re-emphasize that and raise public awareness about this. This thing about 30% of that extra tax, sales tax, going from the tourists that go to Marion County, that's kind of in line with what we were talking about up here. A great percentage of that sales tax revenue could come from the tourists that are coming here. And 500,000 or more tourists coming to our county in a year's time has a huge impact. And what does that do for public safety? And more importantly, what does that allow us to do to take care of the other things that are out there with the help of the tourist dollars that are coming into our community? So it's a great foundation for a roadmap to get us to our future.
I agree completely. I would like to propose that we do this again at the end of the year. I think 3 months is hard. All of y'all are such busy people trying to run your divisions, departments, counties. But I would love to see where we are score-wise closer to December. And I'm all about, I'm a competitive person, but I'm all about keeping score. And I think that we need a scoreboard. Listen, these are our 3 targets. How are we scoring? And in December, Cindy, you can say, Ruthie, you did good here, but then you lost some points here where the county's going. And really, I think that's the only way I know how to do it is having a goal and keeping score. Are we getting closer to what we need? And if sales tax is a goal that we all kind of are leaning towards, the discretionary sales tax, then we need to start having conversations with the leaders out there in the audience who might want to take that baton and run with it. Because you do need a PAC, you do need education, you do need somebody that the community trusts to lead that. So thank you, Sheriff. I really appreciate it. I was going to ask you next,
Yes?
being the wise old soul of our board. He makes me say that. I crossed out of the contract, brilliant. But what would you do? You've been doing this for a long time. How do we wrap this up and get it where our goals are, and how do we accomplish it from the cities and the counties?
Well, I think you pick 3 or 4 things, which we've talked about. We've talked about public safety. We've talked about economic development. I think we've rattled off transportation. There's been 3 or 4 things that we've talked about. You focus on those and then start drilling down a little bit and set, if this group wants to look at revisit this stuff in 6 months, then you need to drill down in each one of those things and say, here are some short-term things that we can revisit in 6 months from now. November and December are tough. You start getting into awful busy schedules, but no reason why we couldn't schedule a half a day to get back together again and say, well, how are we doing with the different things we've talked about? Not everything we've talked about, but a few of these milestones. How are we doing in building bridges with the cities and helping them to achieve some of their goals? How are we doing with our transportation? What does it look like long term in developing the northwest quadrant of the county? That's not something we're going to make big progress on in 6 months, but there are things happening up there. We talked about some of that yesterday, and that Barge Canal boat ramp. Certainly, the Coast Guard isn't waiting on any of us. They bought a piece of property and they're moving forward as quickly as they can. There are going to be things that happen around that area, whether we do anything about it or not. We certainly need to be addressing the interchange management for when Suncoast Parkway hits 19. We're slowly, very slowly, working our way up from south to north with the different interchanges. It sounds like there's still some issues with the Cardinal interchange management area. We've got to get through 44. We've got to move on to 486. I think it's incumbent on the city council to decide what they want to do with 495. As I said, if you want it, great. Let's all advocate for it and plan for it and make it the best interchange that we possibly can. If you don't want it, then let's all oppose it and go to DOT with that and move on to 19 and make that the best interchange that we can. But I think coming out of here today, you've got to condense it down to 3 or 4 things, which I think we already have done that, and then look at what are we going to try and accomplish in those areas over the next 6 months, or at least move in those directions. obviously public safety. We're going to talk a lot about public safety with Sheriff's Office. He's put forward, or he has done what we asked him to do, but there are other things. There's other things that I don't know if I've missed it. Unfortunately, I've had to step out of the room a couple times here today. There was talk last year about body cams, dash cams, things like that. Those are things that we need to be talking about as well when it comes to public safety. Those are needs. Those are things that my understanding is the sworn officers want and the public wants to see. As Steve likes to reference it, the issue is the F-bomb, the funding of those things. We all want it. How are we gonna make that happen? We recently added to fire services, added personnel to fire services. So we've overcome that hurdle there. Now we've got to get the sheriff's office. We've got to get those deputy numbers. My understanding is the current force is about the size that it was or less than it was 12 years ago. And we all know how much our population has grown. That's not okay. So those things need to be addressed. We know as a county commission that our county staff, their pay level is not up to what it needs to be, and that's been an ongoing issue. So we've funded a study to get that done. There's a workshop coming up on that. We need to get them up to snuff. So I know that's a lot, but boil it down to a few things, 3 or 4 things that we can revisit 6 months from now and just talk about successes and what are the next steps.
Just real quick, I guess this is one thing I feel passionate about. We need some kind of a communication plan. I don't think the majority of our population even knows what we talk about.
They
And
don't.
We're not getting it out.
I brought that up at our briefing. We have to hit that hard.
I've been yelling about it for 3 years.
You've only been there 2.5.
When I was campaigning, I was yelling about it.
Okay, Mr. Holmes.
Talking about transportation. Now, one thing is 495 interchange is not in the city limits, but 495 does empty into US 19 at Crest River. Like I say, we'll discuss it, I believe, at our council meeting and all, and get a consensus of what it is as far as where it'll be between the citizens that live out there and then economic development, because anytime you bring something like that, the land use changes and dollar signs start popping up. But just like you're talking about the whole northwest side and everything, you're running sewer and water out there right now where we can't annex because we can't provide water or sewer anywhere outside of our city limits now. So, but we do have a spray field that's about one of the power lines, which is one of our investments that we have to utilize. If a certain corporation does not take the wastewater that they've signed an agreement to take, we're going to have to start looking at our 200 acres there for the spray field. Plus, we're getting our sewer plant upgraded. We've got the grant money to do it. We're looking at shore, just it's for sea level rides. We're looking at making it waterproof for that, or improving it the best we can. But like I say, the discussion on the transportation is a biggie, since it's rolling along like a steamroller. That's where I'll keep score of how we're doing together and how the city's doing. And like I said, communication is, we have to let people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I put that at the top of the
Who we're
list.
concerned about.
Yeah.
The citizens or the economic development. I've told Josh Wooten 20 years ago, I'm not a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I represent the people that put me in office. So that's what it boils down for me.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Mr. McBride, do you have anything, any words of wisdom that, Mr. McBride, our mayor, that could, you've been doing this a long time, and
I don't know if you saw him.
I did not, thank you. Ken, do you have some words of wisdom? I'll put your words
I
first.
absolutely cannot deliver any words of wisdom today. Just in the past, we had like a whiteboard or a chalkboard that had all these thoughts down. It kind of helped us sit here and kind of remember all the things.
I'm the secretary today.
Okay. But the one thing that I did hear from the group is the penny, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have statistics and stats to share with you, even though I understand most statistics and stats, 48.9% of the time are made up on the spot. But I do want to share education, communication, and marketing. Education, communication, and marketing. Why am I mentioning those three words? I'll start off by a very, very brief story. When I first moved to Citrus County, I've been coming to Citrus County since the 70s, but I moved here about a dozen years ago. And I was in line, and the woman in front of me in line, we were waiting for barbecue. And I talked to everybody. So we started a conversation about barbecue, and through the conversation, she came up by saying, because I said, I just moved here, how do you like living here? And she goes, I don't. She goes, I really don't like living here. She goes, I'm from York County, Pennsylvania, and we had so many things up there, but my husband wanted to move down here because it was I'm not gonna tell you why yet. And I said, oh wow, York County, Pennsylvania, that's my home office is in York County, Pennsylvania. Why did you move? And she goes, well, why did you like it there? She goes, we love the museums, we love the parks, we love the culture, we love everything about it. Well, why did you move here? Oh, the taxes. We didn't want to pay those high taxes. And I said, well, do you see kind of a correlation between what you were paying for in York County and what you're not receiving here? And she goes, I don't know what you mean. I go, how's the chicken? So that's the beginning of my story. So I'll add on to the stories. I lived most of my time here in Pinellas County. In Pinellas County, about probably 20 or 25, maybe about 20 years ago, passed penny for Pinellas. That's the marketing. They did not call it a tax. People don't like taxes, right? So don't call it a tax. It's Pinellas for citrus, or penny for citrus.
A cent.
And then what they did is they marketed it by not saying, hey, you guys are going to have another penny put onto your income. We're not going to go that direction. The direction we're going to go is we're going to show you everything that you're going to get for that extra penny. Pinellas County Bike Trail, the roads, the parks. You're talking about beautiful county parks. Pinellas County is the most densely populated county in the state of Florida. They have the #1 county park system in the state. And if you don't believe me, just visit some of the Pinellas County parks. That's all penny for Pinellas. And every project that they did, they put up a little sign. I'm not a big fan of signs, but they put up a sign on that project that said, thanks to you, brought to you by Penny for Pinellas. So that's really all I want to say is, #1, let's stop calling it a tax. Let's call it an investment. It's a penny for citrus. And before we go there, we're going to market it as these are all the great things that one penny is going to bring to you. And then we're going to communicate it to our folks through education. That's all I want to say.
If I may.
Oh, thank you for that's all I want to say.
I love that idea. I love that idea. That's superb. A cent for citrus, or 1 cent for citrus, as opposed to a penny for Pinellas. That is a terrific idea. And that's a lot of the ways that you get things in, because you're absolutely right. Nobody wants to hear about another tax or added taxes or increased taxes or anything. So I think that's a great way to get on track with that. I think this commission can make that happen.
She's in the back. I believe Commissioner Schlabach actually had been talking about cent for citrus, that exact phrase, a while ago. And so I love the sheriff's idea of meeting semi-annually. We did the same thing with our retreat in January. We met in January, we're now meeting in July because the strategic plan that train is moving. And so we need to reconvene as a commission when we're just thinking big picture every 6 months. So I love the idea of all of us, because one of the biggest issues is that we're siloed and we just need to at least update each other on what's going on. Who was next, by the way?
I just want to tag in on why part of this cultural is so important to our community. We have an aging physician population and we are not able to attract physicians.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one reason is because we lack cultural.
That's right.
Yep.
So that it makes it very important that
Mm-hmm.
that's part of our commitment.
So right, when you go to, I'm sorry, when you go to other communities that are elevated, you see the things that we're talking about. And you see what happens to that. You know, when I went to Tampa first time, when I moved down there in 1972, they had one painting in the art museum. That was it. And Tampa was an industrial town. Tampa has really changed dynamically over the last 50 years. And I know that's a long time. But the reality is we have to start somewhere. And if the communities like the county, as well as the two cities, and other cities as well, if they can get a coalition together to do things to beautify, then you raise the culture, you raise the quality of life, you raise everything elevates. All ships rise with the tide. So it's an
I
interesting
have a good
concept.
friend and her husband are both very high dollar people. They're planning to move to Florida in 2 years. And I said, and they've been to Citrus, they love it. And they go, now we're living in Tampa, not enough culture. Exactly.
That's right.
Not enough culture.
That's right.
Who was next for a real speech? Ken, you need to put your sign down.
Oh, sorry. I'll go next.
So I think Sandy's been up there forever. Was Sandy before Cabot or?
Well,
That's fine.
Okay.
I just want to absolutely ditto Ken's remarks because the schools asked for a referendum for 1 cent back in 16 when I was running. And was resoundingly no. But the marketing is very, very important. I love the idea of cent for citrus. That's good. But you have an elderly population that we all want to take care of, but they don't want to pay anything. So it's really important to throw these numbers out that we've been talking about so that, 1 or 12, but you'll still have some pullback on even $12 a year. But sometimes you do it, but marketing is going to be real important. I love that idea. The other thing, we've got to really consider this parkway coming through our county. When you, and I've traveled the parkway since it started. It came to 98 and people said, it's going to come through Citrus County. And I said, well, I don't care. I'm on it in 10 minutes from Homosassa. So you keep fighting it. But it's here right now. But if you go from here to Tampa, not every county has 4 or 5 different exit ramps. You go through Hernando County and you get off one time. And so
there's more than one.
yeah, but I totally agree with you. We can't stop them. Well, 9850 is technically Hernando County, but it's right by Sugar Mill Woods. And then we drop them at Cardinal Lane. We pass over Grove Cleveland, stop them at 44. We can't stop them everywhere. We're not going to have it's not going to be a parkway. It's going to be a local road.
I'm so sorry, Miss Sandy, but it's happening.
I
Now
know.
we have to deal with it.
But it wasn't, there was not an interchange at 495 when they first started it. When they first started it was going right through Ed Garrett's farm and no, so that's something new. It wasn't in the original plan. But I agree with you that too many stops is going to be a real transportation problem for this county.
Kevin.
4 square miles per exit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
of
Yeah.
Commercial property.
And
So-
the other thing I started to think about is we talk about communication. And this really comes from Mr. Dodd on our school board. If we are going to meet a couple more times, maybe we can share the wealth on meetings and we can see, like the school board could host a meeting like this at WTC and show you what the school is really doing, or we can visit some of the culture. And I see a lot of culture in Inverness and Crystal River. There's a lot of history there.
So can you put that on the November calendar and then send it out? Because I know Lindsay and Veronica tried for 3 months to get this date. So if I would love to go to WTC and have you host it and have a public meeting in around November.
All right, November is, you're
October.
talking only about the first part of November, because last 2 weeks Thanksgiving,
Right.
Yeah, so
I
you have to
know.
be first part of November.
Yeah. But
Okay.
but you've got 6 months.
Okay.
I mean, I would love that. Would everybody else be in agreement around
And
the first?
that takes the onus off the county commission having to do it every time we want to meet.
Would you be good with that? First week of November.
You're next.
Yeah, and then we'll go to Inverness. And then, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. If you guys don't mind if you don't mind me stopping this meeting early, I'm gonna let you all talk because I do want to hear how you're gonna get me that nice little box with these 3 initiatives that we have.
Just a very quick comment here. What we're talking about now is we want to let people know that Citrus County is open for business, and we're open for the right kind of business. And we've heard many different things from many different entities, but we're really talking about some very broad, wholesale, systemic changes that we need to make. Let me go ahead and just make one quick remark here, and I'm speaking now to our city managers, to our county administrator, and to every elected official. And that is this: we need to make sure that when we're talking to people, when somebody walks into one of our governmental buildings, that we are treating them like a valued customer and not somebody who is an imposition for us. I think when we have that attitude, that will let people know that, hey, these people want to work with us, they want to see us be a success here, and that opens doors very much. It doesn't cost us 10 cents to do it, but it's got to come from the top, make its way down, and there are certain things that are just not acceptable. They must be dealt with, but when you have a good attitude on the part of your staff, everybody wins. It's a win-win situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Mayor,
I'm through.
you don't have any ideas of how we can get to our goals in 6 months, or what you're gonna?
Well, it's pretty all encompassing for 3 different entities. So there has to just be open communication during the next 6 months.
Okay.
And talking about issues and things and where we can take it from there. And, you know, we still always have to be concerned about sunshine rules and so on. So, you know, we've got to do that openly. But I just think what Cabot said is excellent. And we know that everything starts from the top. We know that if we go into a store and the employees aren't pleasant, we know that starts at the top. We know if we go into government and it's not pleasant, that starts at the top. So the idea is that we become super friendly.
Absolutely.
And we take all of these things as etiquette, and in our small town done right, we walk down the streets greeting everybody. And quarterly, you know, I have a little blurb that I put in the utility bills about you don't meet strangers. Everybody's welcome. So don't meet a stranger when you walk down the street. Smile, be happy. Tell people you're glad to see them. So those are some of the things that work pretty well. But as far as the meat and potatoes of this whole thing, that's going to start with you guys and us all working together. And I'm just concerned about too far down the road. We've got to go ahead and keep the fire burning. And you know, I was thinking 6 months, and this is the end of March, which would be the end of September. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at, because you got to keep the fires burning. Other ideas will come about because of what we do as it evolves, and then those will be presented, and we keep polishing the stone. So we're going to have something really nice when we accomplish these goals.
So October 1st,
Early October. I would say.
to the 1st of November, first week in November. That's our goal. This counts if you
End
wouldn't
of
mind.
October, first of
From the beginning of October to the first week of November. That's your window to get
Okay.
this whole group together. Sheriff.
Chair, what I'd like to say is, if we do it in October, I think that's a benefit for us because the legislative session starts in January next year.
Okay. Very
And
good
that
idea.
also allows us for things that we might want to share with our state representative and our state senator, as well as the governor and the cabinet, as we have opportunities to engage with them. So there's a benefit for doing that in October. And last thing that I'd say is a new era dawned on Citrus County back in November, and I think that we are harvesting the fruits of that new era already, and I look forward to more opportunities to continue to do the same in the future. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. And I look forward to figuring out your budget this coming week.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chair.
Thanks for, working so hard. Well, I appreciate it. Would anybody like some
Yeah.
final comments
I have a
that
couple.
haven't spoken yet,
Yeah.
really? Would you like to say
Just
anything?
a simple thing. And overall, what I'm hearing from everybody is like economic development is the driving force that will take the burden of our expenses and our improvements and what needs to be done here off of our citizens
Yes.
and our businesses, because commercial can't hardly afford to pay any more taxes either. And it's going to not bring in just more people who live here. They're coming, but we do need a clean growth in business.
Yes. Crystal?
I agree with my fellow councilman.
Yeah.
She's great. But yeah, I'm glad that we're doing this again, and keeping us all apprised of what's happening and where we are and where we can make those improvements. And I look forward to the next one to see the progress.
Thank you. And thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. Miss Cindy?
Yeah, one comment that wasn't brought up, I know, Chamber of Commerce, but when we were speaking at the DOT meeting with Mr. Wooten about this Scent for Citrus, we were talking about that then. The chamber is very powerful and strong and getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
And they can be our education and marketing advocate for moving forward with this, since you guys can't do that, but yeah, we don't want to discount the chamber.
No, I've been a 28-year
do
member
a
of the
great job
chamber,
for us.
and it definitely, the Florida Chamber has done a lot for us, and we all are sitting on boards on. Holly and I are on boards for the National Association of Counties, FAC. I think Rebecca got on every board on FAC. Commissioner Finnegan's involved in that. Same with, and we're all working chamber, Florida Association of Counties, Florida Association of Cities. These are all things that none of us are sitting around twiddling our thumbs. And that's what's great about this group. And the school board, their presence there in Tallahassee, you could feel it. I ran into the librarians, and they came and hugged me, and people I knew from Citrus County. So I'm just really pleased with this. And again, so that everybody hears it, public safety, number one, economic development, obviously, and transportation needs. And so we'll just to try to meet in October. Thank you for that invitation. I think that'll be great. And we'll all just pray that we get the money from the state for all these projects. And Commissioner Davis, you want to?
I just have one quick action item for all of us that I think might tie up economic development. We do have Frank Calishones in the back corner. So wave, Frank. If we could all feed any leads that we have through him and let him be the central point even for city economic development, anything major goes through him. And to go back to, it was one of you two, I think it was Cabot, who said open for business. Was that you? Okay. On the open for business thing, perhaps it would be valuable for all of the elected entities to have provide letters of support for people that Frank is going after, to let them know we want them here. But that's his bailiwick. So,
Commissioner Finnegan, would you like to say anything?
I think everyone just wants to go home, but I'll just say, if we're all mission focused, that's how I've been taking since we've had our strategic leadership meeting. Anything that I hear from the community, asphalt was one of them. I'm putting that person in touch with Steve Howard. We've communicated that with Mary. We know our needs, like meeting about litter and Ocala, just anything that I know the board's looking at. If I come across something, and that's what we need to do here, everyone needs to think, how does this filter into the three things we're supposed to be focused on? So as long as we're all mission focused, we're gonna be okay.
Very good, thank you. And my favorite hotel is Ladies and Gentlemen Serving Ladies and Gentlemen. And that is our front person at our personal business is the prettiest, never always has a smile on their face, and that's what we need to be for our county. So pretty up, Mr. Holmes.
I'm retired. I don't have to.
Thank you all. I
Nice
appreciate
mic
it.
drop, Ruthie.
Thank you. Great meeting.
But okay.
Are we getting a photo?
Oh, should I do this?
Now you got it?
Meeting's adjourned.
Are we